everybody. This is Logan Hanks with the Living Fully Loaded podcast. I'm joined with an awesome buddy of mine, return guest, and the always bad to the bone, Brandon Lilly. Brandon, thanks for joining me, brother.
What's up, man? I'm gonna have to get a little corner office down there in the podcast dome you got going on.
I know.
I need a little area and a name tag.
Yep, I know you. This is third time's charm right here.
Man, I hope it's the third of many more.
It will be for sure. It will.
It's always good catching up with you, man.
Oh yeah, well, like I said, you become. It's funny. I've said it on other episodes. I might have even said it on the last episode that you were on with me. And if I never did another podcast today, I would consider it a success just because of the friends that I've made. And I mean, like, you have become one of my close friends from podcasting.
Sure.
So making friends, that's a success in my book.
Well, man, and to kind of reiterate and just kind of something that I definitely know as a man that I appreciate is knowing where I stand with somebody. And then also on the same end, or on the same kind of wave, I think it's important to tell other men or to tell people in general how you feel about them. And, you and I have talked about the fact that I meet a ton of awesome people. I get to meet a ton of high excitement, fast paced, creative, wealthy people. I mean,
yeah,
I live a very unique life, and it's so interesting to see the dynamic and the reality of people. And, sometimes I realize if it's at an event, I don't get a fair shake on who that person is or whatnot. But really, the first time we podcasted, I thought you were an interesting guy. Came down and we hunted a little bit. And really, I think it was over when we went to the Mexican restaurant, started talking more about your appreciation of movies and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it really stood out to me how unique you were as a person. And excuse me, guys, I have the worst allergies in the world. But of all the people that I meet, I do my best to stay in touch with them. But there's just some people like yourself that stand out for different reasons. Maybe there's a small town connection, or the fact that I worked on a farm when I was younger. All that kind of stuff just goes into, okay, this guy's a little bit more than what you expect. And that's what's always an appreciated point for me, because so many people are not who they seem. So many people are so one-dimensional that it's great that they can do something well, but outside of that subject or outside of that realm, they really kind of just lose interest to me. So yeah. The fact that you're multifaceted, you love your family, you pride yourself in that, you work your ass off, and you stand by what you believe in. I think there's probably even a few things that we don't see, completely eye to eye on, but I respect you enough as a person that we always are going to figure it out one way or the other. We can walk away disagreeing at the end and still go on just fine.
Yep.
That's what's valuable to me, because, like Greg or Casey or any of my other friends, it's like, I need you all to support me and kind of be those bumper rails.
Yeah.
Keep me in check, make sure that I have some people to look to from accountability. And I see you guys kicking ass, makes me want to kick ass. And, it just makes the world go around. So I appreciate you very much. As you say, you appreciate me and more. So,
well, man, I appreciate you saying that. And it's, we talked about a quote one time that stood out to me, and it was the rising tides. Is it rising tides lifts all ships? Did I get it right?
Yeah, something like rising tides raise all ships.
Yeah. That's, cause me and you were talking about, cause I'm like, and this is something we've actually talked about too, is I see value in being someone's friend. Like,
for sure.
I feel like today, a lot of people, especially, since I've gotten into the podcast, it's been really cool that I have linked up with a ton of very driven people. But some of the people that are very driven, there's some of them that they forget how to have just friends. Like, like me and you, I could text you a funny meme. If I go hunting, I could call you and tell you about my hunt. Like you are a friend. I don't look at you just from a basis of what kind of return can I garner from this person. And
well, that's one of the things that I think makes you different too. I mean, you're not sitting here having Jack Carr on your podcast thinking, well, this isn't going to be good. But I know you differently than somebody that might perceive you differently. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I know that you were invested in the relationship that you have with Jack Carr. As far as, I mean, every time that we've talked, you know, you've mentioned the fact that he's just such a genuine person. You're so impressed with, you know, how he answers all the messages and how he deals with all that stuff. And that's what tells me is you're never once said, man, you know, I hope it gets 10,000 listens, or, you know, I hope he shares this a bunch of times and I get a bunch of followers.
Yeah.
Your conversation point has never been that. It's been like, man, this guy is just more impressive the more I talk to him. Or you know, that's what I think. I feel the same way about him. You know, listening to him on Rogan the other day, it's just the same guy as listening to him talk to you the other day.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't change characters. He doesn't wear a mask. He stands up for what he believes in. He's willing to listen and have discourse with people that he doesn't agree with. And I don't idolize the guy in any way, shape, or form, but I admire the guy for his ability to be a public figure and navigate those areas so well, because he's not really in the topic of crossfires. You know, he says things so well, and I think he has such a strong reputation. I mean, this is a guy put his ass on the line for a career as a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
So he's walked the walk enough that I think people pick very, very carefully, like, this ain't the guy that we want to argue with, because he doesn't have a lot of, you know what I mean? I just admire a guy that has lived a life in that direction, and certainly the humbleness and genuineness that I have sensed from him at all times. I think that's the same of you. Is every time that I talk to you, I never ever feel like, okay, when's he going to ask me for the thing, or when's he going to slip this thing in there for me? You know, it's always like, hey man, how you doing? What's going on? How you been? How's the fam? How's baseball? Whatever it is. And I think that is such a lost thing in our society, because like you said, so many people are climbing this ladder. And I think for me, I really had a kind of a rude awakening, but also a grateful awakening when I got injured. Yeah. Because as far as, you know, I don't want to harp on it like it's a sad story. I think I told this story in a sad way for a long time, because I was very sad after my injury. But I think now that I've got pieces of my life in place that are much more fulfilling than powerlifting ever was, and my friendships are much more true than the relationships that I bonded because I was a high level athlete. You know, people, as soon as they found out about my injury, the sponsors or the people who were like clawing to get a seminar, or, hey, come lift at our meet, hey, do this, you could tell very quickly who was real and who wasn't. Yeah. Because the messages from one group of people stopped coming in, and the messages from other people started coming more frequently. You know, and that's one of the things that, man, it hurt to realize, or to have to face the fact that I was only valued for this one thing. And I think that set me back as an individual, as a human being, trying to chase that one thing rather than develop myself as a man and as a human. And so now that I'm on the other side of that, and now that I know that a lot of people are playing that game, I tend to find myself clinging and reaching further towards people like yourself, or Paul from Black Rifle Coffee has become someone that I admire and respect very much. Casey Bard, you know, guys like him, Andy, the flip-flop guy. Yep. I don't look to people because they have a fucking following. Yeah. You know, I don't care. And moreover, I have somewhat of a disdain for those people because I'm guilty of it too. That's why I started an entirely different Instagram, because I didn't want to speak to people just to have an audience. I didn't want to just have an audience of people who were passive viewers. Yeah. I wanted to have an audience of people. If I was going to have anything, I didn't care if it was one or if it was 100, but I wanted the attention of people that were on a similar path, that are willing to share a story as arm in arm, trying to figure this thing out together. I reject very heavily the forefront of people who try to preach their life as if they've got it figured out completely. There are people who are masters of certain crafts and whatnot, but when you become more of a cult of a personality and you are a master of your craft, it's a little bit disingenuous to me.
Oh, I agree.
I can tell you, brother, one phone call, 10 minutes of your day, something so brief can change the whole course of everything.
Yeah.
I've seen people lose homes. I've seen people lose their jobs. I've seen people lose loved ones in a matter of moments that shake their life forever. And that's why I try to be very, very careful about taking the stance of do what I do. I more or less try to say, this is who I am. These are the things that I do. Maybe there's some benefit in there in between. If you're talking about trying to be an influencer of any type, that's all I want to be, is someone who shares my journey. I don't want to be cool. I don't want to be loved. I don't want to be any of that stuff because of what people perceive. It's more people who are truly my friends. That's what matters.
Yeah. No, and I'm with you. Like that's, I've talked about with you the hard point with doing a podcast is you want people to listen. I mean, that's like, and as much fun as they are for me, because I actually enjoy just talking to people. But I mean, I want people to hear it. And, I've talked to different marketers and stuff on growing it, and they're like, you got to self-promote. And that is like the worst thing ever to me. Like, I hate self-promotion, which luckily one of them was like, dude, you don't think of it as promoting yourself as much as you're promoting your business. They were like, your podcast is your business. You're just the host. So you promote yourself, right. And that's again, where I've talked to you, like, people seem to be fascinated with the fact that I'm a farmer, and I grew up in a farming family. So I always was like, I don't know why people think it's so cool, but I've seen people think that it's fascinating. And you had told me, and even a marketer that I talked to was like, man, you need to showcase that. Like, people think that's cool. And that's what, like you said, I'm not going to get on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever and make a post and be like, here's what you need to do to take control of your life. Like, I'm not going to get on there because that's not the way that I am. Now, if someone were to message me and be like, Logan, I've got this problem. What do you think I should do? I'm probably like a terrible person to ask advice on something, but I would try to help and be like, well, maybe try this. I don't know. I mean, because I don't have it all figured out at all. But in everything that I do, I try to be as genuine as I can. Like I told you when you came down here, if you'd have left and been like, wow, that guy was like a poser or something, that would have that's like the worst thing to me. Like, because like you said, you've met some people that we see their social media thing and that's what we see. And you're like, man, this dude's awesome. Like, look at this guy. Like he's crushing this crap. And then somebody that knows him in real life's like, gosh, this dude ain't nothing like this. Like, I would never want to be that way. Like, even if someone told me like, Logan, today you can gain 50,000 followers on Instagram and your podcast will probably go up 200% on downloads if you'll come up here and let's get you to pose with this Muay Thai belt or like you're this badass Muay Thai fighter and just kind of go to that. There's no way I could do it. Like, and I mean, that would be a game changer. Like, if my podcast listens went up 200%, I gained 50,000, I could get sponsorships. I could probably start making some money. But I would feel like such a moron piece of crap if I did that. And so, man, I don't know. in everything that I do. Like even when I did my little hunting videos, or our stuff the things that stand out to me that have bothered me throughout the years is whenever someone perceives me as not being genuine. That's the stuff that always bothers me. I'll never forget. I mean, and it's little stupid things that stand out to me. Like if someone called me a moron or something, I'm like, yeah, whatever. But like, I remember one time I had gotten that Halon 32 Matthews bow that I shoot.
Yep.
And when I got that thing, man, I shot because I had missed a deer like the year before. And so when I got that Halon, I shot every single day. I would shoot every morning. And if I got in early enough, I would shoot every afternoon. So I was shooting a crap ton of arrows through this thing. And I got really good. Like I got a 3D target set up out here and I was shooting 60 yards. I'd shoot 60 regularly. And every now and then I'd start playing and I could shoot 110 yards beside my house. Now the grouping wasn't great there, but I mean, I was shooting at a block target and I
shot with you. I mean, I know how well you shoot, man. You're impressive with the bow.
See, I still don't feel like it, but I think I was just, that one time I think was just a fluke that I like grouped good. I was just like under pressure. I almost think I might shoot better under pressure. Just not when a deer is the one causing pressure. So I'll never forget, I put up a picture there. I had shot like 80 yards or something, and I had pretty good grouping. Now, again, this is when I was shooting a bunch, and I was pretty tight at 80, and I had like 3 wheat straw bales because I had 3 wheat straw bales behind my block target. And yep. I put up this picture because I was like, I'm pretty pumped. Like, this is 80-yard grouping. And some dude commented and was like, that's an awfully big backdrop for a guy to be shooting those kind of groups at 80 yards. Like that. And that was like years ago. And I still remember that. And I'm like, is this guy trying to say that I'm lying? Like that little stupid comment stuck with me because I'm like, dude, the last thing I'll ever be is a poser. Like, so that crap, like I said, that stuck out to me, which I also was like, am I supposed to change the backdrop? Like, just because my group tightens, I'm supposed to be like, all right, no more backdrops.
Well, the other thing about it too, is it's like, that's not an indicator of how you shoot every single round. You know, the arrows that I posted the other day, honest to goodness, I shot 5 at 20 yards. I shot 5 at 30 yards. And then I knew for turkey, a legitimate range, dude, I've dropped 75-yard bombs on a foam turkey target, but that's a living thing to kind of play games with in real life. So for me, I know that I could shoot that shot. I know that I could hit a bird at 75 yards. The ethics for me shooting that are, I question myself on that.
Yeah.
Now, like somebody like John Dudley, I think he has on video a 70-yard turkey shot. That's a guy that shoots better than probably 95, 99% of the people in the world.
Yep.
It's a different thing. But 10 minutes later, after I shot those 2 arrows that were perfect, it could be fatigue. It could be a number of things. But my grouping was like one of those times where it was like, I'm either going to put the bow away and know that I shot really well and I'm probably tired.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to spend 2 more hours out here chasing that first group.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, dude, I dealt with so much crap, and a lot of it was self-induced when I was powerlifting because, you put yourself out there in a way, at least the way that I did, like I definitely wanted to win, but I was also kind of divisive. I was somewhat of a polarizing individual. That comes with the territory. Maybe, I probably shouldn't have challenged people the way that I did at some points, but, I didn't mind the back and forth because I didn't really view it as real. But when it started to come around, when I was struggling with some things and people started getting closer to home on me personally, that was, some of the things were true, and that's probably why it hurt.
Yeah.
But, it also was not a good feeling to sit there and have yourself questioned over a medium where you don't really know the person on the other end. you definitely know their intentions aren't good with what they're saying.
Yep.
So it's just it's a silly thing for somebody to be like assuming, one, that you shoot that way every round.
Yeah.
And two, it's crazy. I mean, maybe it's more telling of the world we live in than it is you. You know, maybe that's just the way of the world. Most people are full of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess so. They just think people are like, I mean, they're.
Well, there's a portion of me on videos and stuff that I see. I always have to question, is that real? Like, is that, you know what I mean? Because it's become so prominent.
Well,
you know, not to get on another tangent, but I just think that, you know, maybe people are a little bit more negative just because of the world today, not because they're actually viewing you as negative.
Yeah, maybe. Well, that's kind of like I find myself sometimes and I'm not saying I never have deep thoughts, but in general, a lot of times I don't really view myself as like a very philosophical, like deep thinking individual, but I'll find myself like, oh, I need to get a post up, and I'll be working on a post and I'll write out this thing, and I'm like, this sounds like a motivational poster. And I'm like, this is awful. And so I'll delete it, and then I'll put up a video of me like swapping the planter over to corn. And I'm like, this is much more like me. Or I'll put up a little recording from the podcast and stuff like that. I'm not going to, and there are times, I love Braveheart, and, I just watched Last of the Mohicans. I actually texted you that picture from it, but, I'll share like some quotes from Braveheart and different things like that, things that truly matter to me. But I don't see myself as ever being like the guy that's going to write like a really deep post, because that's just not really the way that I operate. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I follow a lot. I mean, and you're a much deeper thinker than I am. And that's what, like, when I read or listen to your things, I'm like, man, like he's, really hitting the nail on the head with this. But that's just, I'm not on that, like that level. Like, it'd be probably like you putting up a video showing how to swap over a corn planter. Like, what I mean? So there's, like I said, man, people, maybe they do. They just have like a negative perception of the world. So they kind of attach that to you or me, whatever. And
well, think about this, man. And this is like, I'm not trying to sound hippy dippy, and I'm not trying to sound like I've got it figured out. Far from it. But I didn't think as deeply about the world, myself, my place in it, until after my injury, because I was a steamroller. And that really it showed me one thing, and that was that I was human and that I would definitely die one day.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, and somewhat being like a traumatic catalyst for understanding at some level, like, is this who I am? Have I done the most that I'm ever going to do? I'm 32 years old. Have I like hit my pinnacle in life, and now I'm on the downward slope? And all these things started to come about. Like, why is my life not where I want it? Why are my relationships been structured in such a way? Why is my financial status in this position? Why did I make this choice, or why did I tell that lie? And when I started to dissect myself, I started to gain a perspective of forgiveness for a lot of people, because I stopped looking at them with disdain or, a resentment or a hatred, because I figured out somewhere along the line they were probably struggling with some of the shit I was lying to myself about too.
Yeah.
And when you cut somebody off in traffic and, they flip you off, or they curse at you or something like that, it's not really that they're that mad at you because you did that. They're mad at a level of all the things that are wrong in their life. And here's this one more asshole in their day that cut them off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the way that I've learned to try to navigate people's unwarranted anger or unwarranted bullshit. Like, man, there's just something going on in this person's life, maybe now, maybe years ago. It's just made them mad at everything.
Yeah.
Because what kind of loser, I mean, legitimately, and I don't mean this as like they have to be a loser forever, but I do think there is a sense of loser on a person who takes enjoyment and relishes in the fact of, waking up in the mid afternoon, living at their parents' house, talking shit on the internet. Like, there is a quality of loser to that.
Absolutely.
For you to take joy in belittling someone else for no apparent reason other than they're doing something that you're incapable of and jealous of doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does boil down to that. So I never look at that person as like, man, this person's better than me, doing better than me, and happier than me. I look at like, man, this is a really sad person right now.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it doesn't even impact me anymore.
Yeah. No,
like that's all you have to say is some negative bullshit. That's more about them than it is me. Now, if they come at me negative, but like with a good point or with respect or with concern, we'll talk all day.
Yeah.
But it's just coming like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, if that's what you say to me, like if that's all you can say on a post where I talk about, enjoying a sunset is you're a fucking idiot. Well, it's just a mirror.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're actually saying it to themselves.
Yeah. No, man, that was where I came to with people that would be trying to like put down my podcast or do some other little cut me down and things like that. I finally realized, I was like, what a miserable human being they must be. Like to want to bring, because as people I've said lots of times too, I'm a very happy person in life. I mean, and things are not perfect. Doesn't mean my life is perfect, but I'm a happy guy. And so I actually enjoy when other people are happy. Like, I mean, it's, I guess like happiness, or I guess your feelings are contagious, or you want them to be. Like, I'm happy, I want other people to be happy. And vice versa with that would be like a miserable human being typically wants other people to be a part of misery loves company, I guess, kind of thing. Like they don't want to see you doing good and see you happy and enjoying life, because one, it shines more in their face. They're like, they see things that they're not doing in their own life. Or maybe it's something that maybe you're doing something they wish they would have been doing. I mean, I don't know, but they're clearly not happy in their own life, because I don't know a genuinely happy person that gets on the internet and just talks shit to people and tries to make them feel bad. Like, I can't name one happy human being that does that. So
no, I mean, listen, there is what I would call like competitive banter, or spirited banter, where if somebody's in on the joke, if somebody is maybe a little more than an acquaintance via the internet, I can see some of that stuff in the comments kind of as funny or whatever, like, I mean, Scott Davis, he's all the time saying some funny stuff or whatever. And, to an outside person, it's like, oh my God, what are these two idiots talking about? But I just think that, and this is actually what I was thinking about when I pulled over to look at that sunset today. It's probably one of the most clear times in my life since COVID started, because when everything slowed down, it started to give me a chance to gain more perspective on things. It started to let me see that, man, maybe all this stuff that I thought was stable and solid isn't so. And all this stuff that needs tending to.
Yeah.
And when I stop and look at these things and I feel these things, and I'm thinking about how much joy I had just sitting there still for 2 minutes. Like, I didn't sit there for very long. Coming home from jiu-jitsu class and whatever, it was too pretty not to look at,
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what if everybody could feel that? Like, what if everybody could have 2 minutes where they didn't care about a bill, their wife or their husband or their boyfriend or girlfriend wasn't bitching at them, their job was okay. Like, if that for 2 minutes a day, what would that ripple effect look like after a week or a month or a year or 10 years? Like, just 2 minutes at a time. because I think if you feel it for 2 minutes, you start scratching for 3.
Yeah.
And for me, when I started to realize that, man, if you treat people well, people treat you well.
Yeah.
Because I used to think that I had to be the biggest, baddest, toughest, meanest guy in the room. And you know what happens when that's the case is you meet other people who think they're the biggest, baddest, toughest guy in the room, and then one of you's got to prove it. So you always kind of put yourself in this negative loop of having to prove yourself instead of just accepting who you are, building on your gifts, analyzing your weaknesses, and becoming someone better. That's the hardest thing in the world to do, is just to admit that you are what you are and become the best version of that. And I think a lot of people, they don't even know where to begin because they don't even care about themselves.
Yeah.
And
I think especially men struggle with that.
Dude, men are struggling with it. And I'll tell you, to me, it goes back to Sebastian Younger's article or his book, Tribe. There are men who, think about this. We've had freaking technology at a level of, not even talking digital technology, but I mean a real technological advancement in the last 200 years. What is the evolution or the arc of human existence? 50,000 years, 60,000 years? Hardwired survivalism, hardwired understanding of combat and war and difficult living conditions. So when you are wired to work and you are wired to do all these things to provide and protect and create a life and preserve a life and pass life on, you have all that energy stored inside you, just like a bloodhound dog. They don't know that they can track something, but they do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So imagine having something innately inside of you that is just bursting to get out. The modern world gives you no outlet for those things, or it's very difficult to find, or it has to be cultivated in a false sense of way. I mean, I'm taking a jiu-jitsu class. That wasn't class 400 or 500 years ago. That was mandated because, if you were in combat, you needed to know how to fight.
Yeah. Because
you were going to fight. 400 to 500 years ago, at some point in your life as a man, you were going to fight for something, whether it was your country, your state, or your land. You were going to fight for something, most likely, and it's not there today. People are not tested and challenged. So this wonderful creature that is a human that is designed to improve upon itself, the harder it is tested. Where's the test? All we're doing is flexing our mentality.
Yeah.
Or waxing poetic. We're not really doing the things that we are designed to do. And I think that's where a lot of the conflict comes from. I think that's where a lot of the depression comes from, the anxiety, the stress, the feelings of worthlessness and all that, because we're not doing what we're born to do. And I'm not complaining about it. Life is pretty damn good. But I also create a lot of that stress on myself, like through training and, hiking, camping, all these things. My mind is always actively doing things at a physical and mental level, not just one or the other.
Well, and I think that's one thing too with that. Like when I started just doing this podcast, first it took me out of my comfort zone because I was like putting myself out there, but just doing the challenge of kind of doing this, it actually made me a happier person. Like mentally, it was something, it was that creative outlet, and it's something that I can like work to grow. And a lot of guys, which I love, like you said, weightlifting, things like that. You can fabricate a struggle. And that's where I think fitness needs to be a part of. I think it needs to be a part of everybody's life, because of the huge goal. Like even if you're injured, a lot of times it'll even make you feel better. Pat Mack, one time, he told me, I think when I had him on the podcast, or I might've been talking to him after, his little famous slogan is motion is lotion. Cause he's like in his 50s and his body has been through hell of war and Delta. And, he was Delta Force or something for like years. I mean, he like ripped his bicep off on a helicopter rope and all this crap. I mean, his body has been like destroyed, and he's jacked, and he's like kills it working out. And he told me that when he doesn't work out, he hurts worse than when he does. When he does not work out, he hurts worse. Like, and that's what he said. He said, "Man, motion is lotion," and so
if I ever stop, I'm done.
Yeah,
because I'm telling you, man, there was some real low points after Terrence passed away. Like, I would go 3 or 4 days kind of willing myself to just do something in the gym, and sometimes something was like 10 push-ups.
Yeah.
Some days it was, the workout that I was supposed to do, but there were days where I would go without training, successively or in consecutive days. And man, like 2 or 3 days in, I would feel my neck starting to be tighter. My back was starting to, ache up. Because what you're doing ultimately, like, again, this thing is designed to move. Yeah. There's records or I guess estimations by archaeologists that when we were nomadic, we moved up to 40 miles a day.
Dang.
Think about it. It's not that unlikely to think if you were moving for like a season or shortage of water or crop or whatever, and you were, kind of nomadic, you walk 2 or 3 miles an hour for 12, 13, 14 hours a day. Like, you're not going to stop walking until you get that thing that you're lacking, because you're going to die without it. It's not like there's a convenience store, along the way.
Yeah.
You've got to get to the next place over that has water or has whatever crop is growing at that point. I mean, when you really start to think about it, the amount of struggle that the human body went through in times like that. One of the most fascinating people to me in regards of survival are like the Lakota, living on those plains in sub 40s, you know what I mean? Like negative 40 degrees, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's so unbelievable to think about the conditions they lived and survived in. I mean, that's something that fascinates me more and more as I get older. Again, like, I'm still trying to figure out different things that to keep myself in shape and to keep my mind occupied and whatnot. And can you just imagine, like, there was no time for contemplation of those things. They were so dialed in on their systems and rhythms that if you didn't do something for a day, that could literally mean there wasn't enough firewood and you froze to death at some point.
Yeah.
There's a literal cutoff point where, hey, today we cut enough wood to last us all winter. And if you don't make that number, guess what? You're either going to be really, really cold all winter long, or you're going to think you got enough and find out you don't, and you're going to freeze to death.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the truth of how it was.
Yeah.
It was a 24/7, 365 attempt to stay alive, and not to try to glamorize or romanticize it. I bet it was hard as fuck, but I think that is the truth in all of it, is that we are capable for the unbearable.
Yeah.
We just have to realize what we are potentially made for. Not what we've done, not who we've been, but what the potential for who we were made for. You know what I mean? Like, if you had to, like,
you see that
not
even,
like go ahead.
Well, you see that with, like, I mean, take the SEALs, for instance. I mean, like, buds that they put them guys through, it has become this huge thing. And I mean, I've had a lot of SEALs on the podcast, just had, Terry and Bill on, like, just here recently. Two freaking, I mean, just beasts of men. But the thing about it at the end of the day is that they are just men. And that's not saying, I'm not saying that in a way to belittle anything that they've ever done, because they are beasts. But they proved, every one of these guys that becomes one, they prove that people can go beyond what they really think. Because buds, I mean, the dropout rate is like crazy. I don't know if it's like 80%.
85%. Yeah. 80 or 85%, I think. Yeah. I think it's actually lessening because, not because that they this was something that I read the other day. The standards have stayed the same to this point, but they said that, and I don't know how accurate this is and how current this is, so don't criticize me if I'm wrong, but it was something like they have had a better quality of individual try out for the SEALs, so the dropout rate, it's fluctuated with like 2 or 3%, but it has improved in the last 10 years or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. Well, I also kind of wonder if it ain't like one of them things where, let's say like deadlift, the world record was 800 pounds. And then some guy comes in and he deadlifts 850 pounds. And then like here next, you have a guy come in and deadlift 900 pounds. And then you have like several guys deadlift 900 pounds. And then somebody breaks that. And then people deadlift that way. Like, like, and even like with the miles, you see it'll be like, oh man, somebody ran a 4-minute mile, like world record or something. And then
Well, Roger Bannister, I mean, I think he did it. He did the impossible. I think it was Time Magazine or Sports Illustrated or somebody, whoever it was. I don't think Sports Illustrated was around back then, but basically 4-minute mile was considered impossible.
Yeah.
And he did it. And then I think it was something like 7 to 8 men did 4 minutes, like in quick succession. Once he broke it, it started to happen more frequently. I mean, you look at the 1,000-pound deadlift. Andy Bolton was the first one to do that, I think, in 2006. Well, now I think there's been 4 to 5 Americans do it, not counting worldwide. So something that literally took 60 years of powerlifting history, and as long as man has been around, they see something heavy on the ground, they want to pick it up. So to have a sanctioned official 1,000-pound deadlift after a world record squat, I believe, and that deadlift gave him the largest total of all time. So he's the only one that's ever done it in a full meet.
Yeah.
Powerlifting, no straps, by the way.
Yeah.
So Andy Bolton, to me, holds a very, very special place in that succession, but it opened the door to prove that it was possible. And I cannot imagine the individual fortitude in their mind of a person who crosses the threshold of the impossible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's tons of guys. Danny Werble was the guy that pulled 936 in the 70s or early 80s, and it stood for 36 years, and he pulled 936 relatively easy and relatively young in his lifting career. I mean, he was in his 30s, but still, Bolton pulled that in his late 30s, I believe.
Yeah.
So what happened that stopped Danny Werble from doing this?
Yeah. Well, that's Arnold said that in his biography. I read Total Recall, his biography, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. I've always been a big fan of his. And
do you actually believe that son of a bitch sat down and typed a word of it?
Probably not, because have you seen that? It is like the size of the Bible. I bought the book. I guess I need to say I read/listened, because I love audiobooks, but no, I'm sure Arnold did not. But that dude's got but one of the things that I love that he said in that book, and I've even heard him quote it, is constantly people told him he would not be able to do something. Like, because he was I've loved Arnold because he is a freaking dreamer, but he like laser focuses on what he wants. And one of the things when he came into America, and he was already this monstrous dude, and he was like, I want to be in the movies. And he said at the time, guys like Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino, those were like the big stars, which don't look a damn thing like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, this dude, his accent is crazy, and he's like, looks like a gorilla. And so he was like, all these guys kept telling me, Arnold, you'll never be in the movies. It's impossible for a guy that looks like you, talks like you, to be in the movies. And Arnold, in the book and in the quote, he's like, I loved it when somebody told me that it was impossible to do something, because he said, then that meant I was the first one to do it. And like, it's a simple quote. Like, it's a simple quote, but it's so, like, he was like, I love that. And like you said, like, I've never thought about like the fortitude that goes into that, like forging into the unknown. And I've always been fascinated even with the frontiersmen. There was that awesome series, I think it was called The Men Who Built America, Frontiersmen.
Oh yeah. Love that series.
Dude, that was awesome. Like I've listened to Blood and Thunder, the book, which is about Kip Carson and all them guys. And dude, fortitude, man, these guys were going into like a freaking new world. And I don't know, man, it's something about that. But the fulfillment that comes with pursuing the impossible and then doing it. Like, I couldn't imagine as a guy, if 1,000 pounds had never been like lifted in a competition, I couldn't imagine what it would feel like to be the first guy, because even if somebody beats that, you will always be the first guy that pulled 1,000 pounds.
Yep.
Like, that's pretty cool to me.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I think it's just one of those things that I think there is a quality of being first that just makes you a cut different. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I don't know what the difference is. I don't know I know Andy reasonably well enough to ask him, but to wonder if he looked at it as 1,000 pounds or if he just looked at it as 10 pounds more than his last.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really the distinction that has to be made in anything. And I mean, I can somewhat empathize with the numbers that I did. Like a 600-pound bench press to me was a huge milestone.
Yeah, that's a ton of weight.
I didn't think that it was a world record. I didn't think it was the best or most that would ever be lifted. But man, 600 pounds puts you in some pretty rarefied air.
Yeah.
As far as bench presses go. And I can remember complete elation, partly because it was done and there was a lot of pressure off of me at that point.
Yeah.
To do it, self pressure and outwardly imposed as well. But I couldn't imagine. Like, the guys right now are near and very close to 800-pound raw bench press. And, the record right now is in the 760, 770 range.
Raw?
I don't remember. I know Kirill Sarachev did 744. And then a couple guys, Eric Spoto was chasing 720s. Scott Mendelson was chasing 720s. But it's been creeping towards 800 for a while. I mean, 800 pounds raw would just be insanity.
I'm over here. I'm like feeling good because the other day I hit 230 for like 11 reps in a row. And I'm like, all right, feeling pretty good. Like I've been wanting 315. I should be all over 315 and I'm feeling pretty good about it. And now it's guys benching 800 pounds.
Well, what you got to realize, man, I benched 832 in a bench shirt at Westside. Actually, that was after Westside. I benched 810 while I was at Westside.
Yeah.
And the world record in my division was 860 at that point in a shirt. Okay. Now I think the record is 1107.
Well, I saw Bill benched, what did
Bill, 1051 or 1062 or something like that. He's in the mid thousands.
Yeah.
Which let's just not just leave it at Bill. It's Bill Gillespie, 61-year-old powerlifter, former strength coach for Seattle Seahawks, Liberty University, just one of the greatest minds I've ever spoken to. But at 61 years old, he's benching 1,050, 1,060 pounds, and does 1,000 pounds fairly routinely in training. and
a super nice guy.
Like, unbelievably devoted to his faith, unbelievably devoted to his family. One of the, I don't know how you really quantify it. It's so subjective, but I think he's one of the greatest coaching minds of any form, and it just happens to be strength conditioning.
Yeah.
And, I mean, for a guy to be that age, still hitting records for like personal records, nearing in on the all-time world record, that should speak for itself. And he's done so in drug-tested federations and and on and on. So,
he's a tank, man. That's what when I met him at Winter
dude, I'm looking at a tractor tire right here that I flipped, and Bill's about as wide as it.
He is.
I'll tell you one of the funniest things. Richard Soren walked in the office there, and Bill was standing at the counter talking to Anita. She runs the show there. She's the office manager for everything, and I mean, she does an amazing job. She's one of my favorite human beings alive. But Bill was standing there talking to her, and I swear to God, Richard Soren just stopped, and he kind of had his jaw slacked a little bit. And I said, "What's up, Pops?" And he said, "Would you look at that? Would you look at that son of a bitch's back?" And it was just like, and I mean, when Pops told me about that anvil, when I picked that anvil up and Pops told me that it had never left the floor since it had been there, like, shit, man, that was my first 1,000-pound deadlift. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, Pops has kind of ribbed me a little bit about losing weight, not being as strong as I was or whatever. So to have done that and have him there and have him have such a love for grip and to shake my hand and be like, man, you're still world class. Like that's just one of those things that I, kind of going back to the beginning of this conversation, that's what I think men need, because I've never felt bad when another guy that I respect looks at me and says, man, you're doing something great, or I'm proud of you, or I love you, or whatever. I mean, that's about as good as it can get for me.
Yeah. No, that
especially, and Pops, I mean, he's a big daddy, man.
He's awesome. For people that don't know who we're talking about Mr. Richard Soren, the freaking head honcho man over Sorenex, and he is awesome. Yeah.
The CMFIC for life.
CMFIC.
That's the chief motherfucker in charge.
There you go. Well, that's what I earned some brownie points with him because, I kind of cheated and I got you to, because when I got invited, I was like, I don't want to show up empty handed. So I asked you, I was like, what do they like to drink? And you were like, man, Angel's Envy. That's Pop's stuff. And I'll do when I think we were over there watching Josh and, Jason and them forge knives, and Pops walked over there and I was talking to him and I said, hey man, I brought you something. He said, oh yeah, what'd you bring? And I said, man, I got you a bottle of Angel's Envy. And man, his eyes got big and he was like, where'd you even find that stuff? And I was like, oh man. So he was fired up. So
yeah, man, I don't know if people know, and it kind of comes down to one of those things where people know he's a great man. People know he's done a lot of cool things, but probably some of my favorite relationships or associations within Sorenex have been the conversations where you walk in his office and he's sharpening a knife that some war hero gave him 30 years ago and tells you the story about the guy, tells you all the things that he did, and tells you how he came to know him, tells you about the knife. Man, just to know that somewhere in his Rolodex of incredible stories and incredible existence, I'm the guy that's sitting in this man's office listening to him talk about it,
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that you can't trade that stuff. And, Pops he had an accident last year and kind of scared Bert, kind of scared everybody. And that's the stuff that matters. Like I'm looking at a beautiful Sorenex rack right now in my gym. I'm looking at our kettlebells, our center mass bells. I mean, that's no different than Andy Bolton's 1,000-pound deadlift. These are all origins of Richard Soren's mind. The fortitude to take a design when he was 9 years old, made out of wood, for jammer arms. And then now in 2021, I'm sitting here and looking at the advanced design jammer arms on the front of my rack. It's like, talk about fortitude. talk about somebody who had a lifelong legacy or commitment to do something great, to build things, to build things that make people stronger.
Yeah.
I mean, when you break down, what did Richard Sorn really do? He dedicated his life to building things so people could be stronger.
Yeah. I mean, I
don't really know if there's a better thing that a human being can do. I mean, you can love somebody, but to collectively have a vested interest in building things that make people stronger.
Yeah.
And he didn't do it for money his whole life. Like most of the time he was broke just trying to get the thing off the ground,
Oh yeah. That's what I'm saying.
One of his friends, they have the best, the admiration I have for him knows no bounds. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Well, he lived up to it, to everything I've heard at Winter Strong. I mean, he was an awesome dude. That's what I was excited when I called him and actually was able to just talk to him for a little while, because, it's so much, it's chaos, as awesome as it is, but, it's so much chaos that it's hard to at times it's hard to rope down, especially someone like Mr. Richard, because he's, everybody, a lot of people are trying to talk to him. And I mean, he's kind of all over the place and stuff. So it was cool. I was able to kind of rope him in there for a little bit and talk to him for a while. So no, he was awesome. So, all right, we're going to get into some topics here. I took some topics and I had some people throw in some topics on Instagram there. So, I feel like we're about an hour in. I'm good and warmed up. I feel like you're good and warmed up. So,
dude, I'm saucy, buddy. I'm saucy.
Well, the first one, and we won't go just super deep in this one. What are you sipping on tonight?
Straightforward. I would not be drinking typically. Okay. I'm kind of on a nutrition plan right now, but I set aside some calories today to pour myself a double Buffalo Trace, because I know I was going to be talking to you. So sipping on that. And in the other hand, I got a green Ultra Paradise Monster.
Nice. A monster midnight. This late?
Dude, bring it. Come with it. I've survived worse.
Well, that makes me sad. So how often can you have a drink right now?
It's really not that. It's not too bad. I'm only on my second week, and I'm just kind of doing it until Summer Strong. One, because I want to drop my weight a little bit below where I want to compete, and I'm looking to compete in June, kind of grow into my competition rather than complete down. Yeah. So
for BJJ.
Yep. So that's really all I'm looking to do right now. I'm not trying to be psychotic with it. I mean, I posted pictures pretty regularly. I'm getting leaner and leaner as the days go by. Yeah. But alcohol is one of those things that I very much enjoy. I very much, I like the part of my day where I come in, and it's not every day, but it could be 5 days a week, 1 week. It could be 7 the next. It could be 1 the next. But if I'm feeling like I want to sit down and I want to write something, listen to music, or read something, and I'm in a particular mood, one of my favorite things is that. So it's a physical, emotional signal to say, hey, something that you're achieving or something that you're working towards achieving is bigger than this momentary pleasure. I got you. I kind of set things aside because, I try to have a healthy relationship with everything I'm doing, and I can get real psychotic with my preparation for competition. Yeah. So I try to this totally fine, because it tells me that I'm in control of everything, and I chose this. It's not like it chose me. Yeah. All right. Well, so Buffalo Trace, what did you say? What kind of Buffalo Trace? Oh, this is just straight up regular old Buffalo Trace. Okay, I got you. Well, yep. What about you? I am drinking some Woodford Reserve Double Oaked. That's a good one. It is, man. Woodford Reserve was actually my original just regular sipper. Mm-hmm. And then I got on the Eagle Rare kick for a little while. And the other day, because my wife is always, if someone's like, what's Logan's favorite bourbon or something, she still is like, it's Woodford Reserve. And so the other day I saw a bottle that's Double Oaked, and I picked it up, and it's a little hotter
than the regular. And I like burn. I don't know. I like the burn. And so, man, it's good. It's kind of like it's kind of like revived my love for Woodford Reserve.
Well, you know, it's one of those things. It's like my papa said: if you jump out of a plane, jump out of the highest one. If you jump off a bridge, jump off the highest one. You know, like, and talking about obviously like with a parachute or a bungee cord, but that's the same thing for me with whiskey. Is like I try to find that point where it's not ever clear. You know, it's not just absolutely fire going down your throat, but it's also got enough sting to let you know that it's there. I think that there is and it's probably some of the old Louis L'Amour type stories, the old Westerns, and, you know, falling in love with that kind of character, you know, walking in the saloon, kicking one back and gritting his teeth as he swallows it down.
Yep.
But, you know, there's just something about it to me is like, I appreciate all aspects of bourbon when it is that perfect balance of flavor, aroma, and burn. Like, it almost trips me out when something's too smooth. You know what I mean?
I don't like it.
I don't either.
Yeah,
that's why I tend to lean towards the higher proof stuff.
Yeah,
you know, it's like I was drinking that Weller 107 the other day, and man, you know, come with it because that was really good. I thought,
dude, that right here, this is why we're friends. So, George T. Stagg is that's the king, man. That one is my favorite. I know you've had it.
Yep.
I got a bottle in there now because I can never find it, and it's expensive. Like it's expensive, but I will say that's my bourbon that I will just about spend whatever I need to get it if I can find it, because the bottle that I have in there right now, it's 137 proof, which is like freaking flamethrower. But it's so weird because it's not like drinking gasoline. I mean, I've had straight moonshine. Like back when my dad was in business, people would bring us like the real jarred moonshine, and and you know, it was hot, but I don't know, man. I don't even know if it was that hot, but 137 proof. Now I don't drink, man. You came down and hung out with me. I don't drink to get drunk. So like
I tried to get you drunk, damn it. I tried on record. I tried to get this son of a gun drunk with me. I was pouring freely. And pouring like an American.
And I wasn't judging, and there's no judgment, man. I was like, go ahead, man, knock the bottom out. I've had my one drink, I'm solid. But so it's not that I don't choose the high proof to get drunk. I choose the high proof for the heat, and that's what I got. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I keep interrupting you. I smoked a little weed. I'm a little chatty Cathy tonight, but the fact of the matter is, that's what I was going to ask you, because I'm interested in your take on it, but you're kind of answering it. How you justify buying because I think there is something, and I don't want to call it pride, and I don't want to really call it ego, but I think there is a satisfaction in knowing that you have what would be classified as a fine bourbon or a good bourbon.
I'm a bourbon snob.
Sure. Well, listen, right here within arm's reach, I got 4 Roses small batch, 2 bottles of Buffalo Trace, 2 Booker's 10-year uncut and unfiltered, a Blanton's, and a Weller's, and a Texas whiskey that Marcus Luttrell sent me.
Awesome. So, well, I've got, man, which I'm out here in my little studio here. Up on the shelf, it's actually a pretty crappy, this kind of the cheap stuff. Actually, I've got a bottle of popcorn Sutton, the like moonshine, and I hate to say this because it might hurt somebody's feelings, but I actually use it to wash my hands when I'm out here. Like, and if I'm working on the shop or something, and
you got the lacquer or some shit.
Yeah, I get like some grease or something. It's like basically turned into rubbing alcohol because like somebody, and it'd be funny if I'm out here, somebody'd probably walk in at like 12 o'clock on a Monday and it would reek of like Popcorn Sutton's whiskey, and they'd be like, damn, this guy is getting hammered at 12 o'clock on a Monday. But no, inside though, dude, I don't know, man. Like I said, I do take pride in the fact that, I mean, I'm a pretty proud bourbon drinker. Like, and I'm a Christian. Like there's some people that are, Christians that are really, it's called legalism. They get like legalistic, like you can't not have a drink of alcohol. I am not that way. I don't think that there's anything wrong with having alcohol. Like I drink enough. My mind is never consumed with alcohol, or I never lose my ability to think. And, so I don't see an issue with it, but so I am a proud bourbon drinker. One, I do think whiskey and bourbon, that's like, I mean, I'm a farmer, I'm a blue collar. I consider myself a fairly rugged individual. I think that goes hand in hand with that. Like it's a rugged American to me, works hard at the end of the day, like you said, is like wants to chill out, and they pour him a glass of whiskey. And I do, man. Like it's iconic to me. I love Tombstone, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, all those. That's what I grew up, man. I love watching that stuff. My dad always was watching it. And you mentioned Louis L'Amour. When you come and hunt with us or come hang out or anything, again, mention that to my dad, because he has read probably every single Louis L'Amour book. He loves Louis L'Amour. And, so, I mean, and for people that don't know, that's like a ton of books. Like Louis L'Amour wrote a ton of books, but
prolific.
Yeah. My dad has read, I would say he has probably read every Louis L'Amour book. But not to get on that kick, but bourbon in my shelf, I have the old Rip, or old Van Winkle, Lot B. And I paid a pretty good chunk of change for this bottle because I was like, well, I got to try it out. Like I went to get it, and I actually went to get some George T. Stagg. I thought they would have a bottle in. They did not. And the guy was like, man, you got to come back here. I got this bottle in. And he told me the price, and it was pretty pricey. But I knew the name, and I was like, I got to try it. And so I got it. And it was so disappointing. Like it was, it's so smooth. Like I guess if someone's listening and they love super smooth bourbon with like basically no heat, then you would probably really enjoy the Lot B. I think it's Old Rip. I can't remember if it's Old Rip, but it's something like that.
There's a classification between the,
it's not a Pappy's. Yeah, it's not a Pappy's. But it actually made me leery of like the even higher class Pappy's, like the 23, because then I'm like, geez, well, how smooth is that one? Got any burn at all then?
Well, I can tell you this. I'll be completely honest, and I say this as a Kentuckian. When you pay the price, you're paying for tradition. Yeah. You're paying for the way that they process things, the fact that they didn't use technology or computers.
Which is cool, though.
It is. And I think that there is, from a level of, if this bottle was comparative price-wise to another fine 23, 15, or 12, 10, whatever, if it was comparably priced, I would definitely occasionally, maybe once a year, grab that bottle to continue the tradition of having one on my shelf. I've had people buy flights for me. I've bought friends a double shot of the 23 and split it and shared it just so people could have the experience. And every single time, and this is without fail, they will immediately say, "Oh, I thought this was going to be better." And I'm talking about really, really like people that I can have a deep conversation with about food or wine or bourbon or really anything. I mean, people who appreciate these things.
Yeah.
And resoundingly, that is the feeling, is it just, I think you're buying tradition when you pay that price for that bottle, especially on a second market.
Yeah.
It just gets crazy. But I can tell you for certain, if you ever get up here, there's some bourbon houses I can take you to that they'll pour you a single shot of the 23 for $50, and that's
Really?
usually, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad on the price for that.
No, there's a place in Nashville called Skulls. If anybody's down in that area and they want to try it, I think it's 65 on their menu for the 23. So
okay, well that's
if I'm not mistaken, I think it's it might have been one of the others, but I'm pretty sure that I split the 23 with a couple people just so they could try it.
Yeah. Well, see, there's times like I actually prefer a cheaper bourbon to some of the really expensive ones just for that burn. Like I actually really think Bullet. I enjoy a lot of the Bullet bourbon.
I like the rye.
See, I'm not a rye guy. I can't get it. I'm just not a big fan of the rye.
That's one that I really enjoy. That's a one ice cube. Let it sit for a minute and start sipping.
I've heard they had good rye like that. Now, I just did try their 10-year-old bourbon.
That's my favorite.
I was gonna say
that's my favorite. Bullet.
It's good, man. It is good.
Yeah, the 9-year-old, 9-year Knob Creek. That's one that I enjoy. It's like 120 proof, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really good one. It's kind of in. I would put it in that class, of quality bourbon that's got a little higher proof that gives you the flavor and the aromas of what you're looking for. But it's kind of like a pepper. I don't want to eat a pepper just because it's hot. I want it to have some quality of taste as well.
Yep.
And that's the way I like the bourbon. If something just high proof and no flavor, well, I'll just drink Everclear. It's 190 proof and just rips your ass. You know?
Yeah.
So I want the flavor. I want to be able to smell it before I drink it. I know that sounds weird and kind of uppity, but honestly, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Just the ability to sit down. It's like that 2 minutes I was talking about with the sunset. You sit down, you can smell the bourbon before you drink it. You sip it, you kind of savor it, and automatically you feel better.
Yeah. Yep. It's just
spoken like a true alcoholic.
It chills you out, man. It's like it's like the trigger for like the end of the day kind of thing almost for me.
Oh yeah.
But
absolutely.
That's what I'll tell anybody, if you like some heat, and George T. Stagg isn't like so hot that, I mean, it sounds like when you hear 137 proof, some people are probably like, holy smokes. And I mean, it's hot, but it's like like you said, it actually has a good taste. And I'll tell anyone, if you can find George T. Stagg or Stagg Jr. is good too. Man, I tell people to get it. Because I like it. I mean, I love both of those, and I can't find them very often. Like, I have one bottle of George T. Stagg, and that may be the second bottle I've ever had of it. But oh man, I ruffled some people's feathers with that Lot B Winkle, because I'm in a bourbon page on Facebook, and I bought that, went home. And I was excited, man. I was like, I can't wait to try this. Everybody shits their pants about the Winkle. And so I poured me a glass, and to me, it was no better than Blanton's. And, Blanton's is smooth. It was no better than Blanton's to me. Like, it's a good bourbon, but it was like, it's about like Blanton's. And I made a post on this bourbon page, and I was like, tried this Lot B, and Blanton's is right there with it. Like, it's no better. Really disappointed. Oh my God, man. People were like losing their minds that I didn't think Winkle was like the bee's knees, man. I had like insulted their entire existence, that I wasn't on the train with it.
Oh. But that's just people, man. Because it's like, Rolling Stones.
I like
their
songs.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I like their songs. Like I can name, they got a few good songs in the catalog, but I don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't get it at the level that some people do. Now, that's the same. I bet you there's at least a percentage. Like there's at least one douchebag in the group of people that were inflamed about that's never even had it. He's just arguing based on reputation.
Yeah.
Now, my guess is it's probably more than one.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I think that's just a human characteristic that people, they love tradition so much that even if they don't understand or really aren't a part of that tradition, they'll defend it.
No, I agree. I mean? I agree.
So, but I think if you were to sit down, I'm just being honest because I've done this shit. I've had a guy that worked, there's a great bourbon bar in in Lexington. There's a couple of great bourbon bars in Louisville, but nevertheless, this bartender set me down to a flight of 10. And they were just enough to wet your whistle and kind of get a hint of smell, flavor, and all that. He gave me 10 different varieties. And all of the ones that you would hear is kind of like on that level of Van Winkle, they were disappointing. Yeah. And I don't know if it's just because I don't have an advanced, like if I'm so damn redneck country that
your palate
my mouth
isn't
and palate doesn't, I can't taste anything north of $100 a bottle. I don't know. But the truth of the matter is, every single time we've played that game, that's somewhat been the case.
Yeah.
I just don't look at price as a point of worth.
No.
You know what I mean? But do you drink wine at all?
Man, not really. My wife does, but I don't.
Well, I'm gonna have to send her a bottle of wine.
Is it dry?
It's a Pinot Noir. It's
well, that don't mean shit to me. I don't know.
if I were to tell you, I would. It's a sweet wine. It's got a ton of really good flavor. It's Andy's. I don't know that he's involved necessarily financially, but I know that he's invested as far as in trying to help this guy get his wine vineyard
from Half Face. You talking about that, Andy?
Yeah. Lucier, it's the one with the pig on the bottle.
Yeah.
He's posted it a few times and I ordered some. I actually, I've ordered 5 bottles now and I've drunk one, but I enjoyed it so much that I went ahead and ordered 2 more right off the jump. So I'll send you all some and, I think you'll be surprised. I really do.
I enjoy really sweet. I like a sweet, I guess it's a red wine.
Yeah, it's a lighter. It's not a heavy red.
Okay, see, I just don't drink it a lot, but I enjoy a sweeter red wine. Marcy likes like this just god-awful, the driest of dry red wines. Like, I used to would get her, like when we first started dating, and I guess probably even right when we got married, she would drink Stella Rosa, which was sweet. And, but I guess her palate has changed and she likes this, and she'll even drink it like warm, which I'm over here like, God, this stuff tastes terrible. Like I'll try it. But then I'll be like, hey, try a drink of this Stag or something. And it'll be like straight with nothing. And she tries a drink and it's like singes her eyebrows. So, like, I guess I can't say much, but, if I had to drink red wine, I want it to be sweet. I don't drink it enough to enjoy a dry wine.
Well, there's two reds that I'll send you all. One is I believe it's a Kentucky wine. I know it is, but it's really, really fantastic as far as just, it's great for like a charcuterie board or having people that you don't really know over.
Yeah.
Because it's just sweet. It's an enjoyable, pleasurable wine. And I think, I don't know anybody that's tried it that hasn't liked it. And you may hate it, but I'm just saying it's something that if you sit it on the table, you're not going to have somebody be like, oh, this is too strong or this is too dry or whatever. It's just it's like a welcoming red wine. There's nothing expensive or crazy, but again, I don't give a shit if it is expensive or crazy. I like it. Yeah. So I think that's the number one overriding rule for me is like, I've lived through the years of doing stuff because it was supposed to be cool, even if I didn't, it wasn't what I wanted to do. But
yeah, well, no, I'm that way too. I will probably never buy another bottle of the Lot B. Like, and it's a cool bottle just because you can be like, hey, look here, I've got this. But the George T. Stagg, on the other hand, if I see it again, I'm buying it. Like, and I don't care if it's not for the fact that, I don't know, $200 or $250 a bottle. Like, that's not why I want it. I want it because it is my favorite bourbon that I've had. Like, and I mean, it's not a bourbon I drink very often. I mean, I have like half a bottle in there, and it's a bourbon that, like, a special occasion. Like, I actually bought it when harvest season ended last year. I was like, we made it, had a good harvest. Here you go. It was like my self-reward was this. So no, man, I'm with you, but, we've got similar bourbon tastes. So, now this is a good transition. We might get to share bourbon with aliens. It looks like.
Okay.
If you had to share a bottle of bourbon with an alien, what would you share with them?
So,
I mean, because I don't know if could their stomachs handle like 130 something proof bourbon?
I'll tell you what I think I would do if, and this is somewhat of a, cop out because we were just talking about Pops and Angel's Envy, but the thing about Angel's Envy is they recast them in port wine barrels.
Yeah.
So they get that hint of a sweetness, and it's still got enough alcohol that you get a lot of the aspects of what you're looking for. What was your take on the Angel's Envy? Because it's one of my favorites. Man,
I thought it was good. I thought it was a well-rounded bourbon. That's how I would describe it.
I'm glad that you said that, because that's what I would actually, it's not a traditional bourbon, which is also the other contributing factor because it's finished in a port barrel. But I would say it is a well-rounded bourbon, and it is a little bit different. And I think because of those two reasons, I would use that as my, and plus the tie that I have to that bond with Pops.
Yeah.
I would tie that as the bourbon that I would probably want to gift an alien, if so. But I still stand by the fact, if you're looking for all the things that I search for in a Kentucky in bourbon, and I want to represent Kentucky for what it is, I am always going to gift somebody, an individual or a friend, a bottle of Buffalo Trace. That just tends to be the one that I think satisfies the boxes that I would classify as well-rounded.
Yeah.
It's one that I share. It's very well received. People enjoy it. It's not too harsh. It's not too smoky or oaky or anything like that. It's just a very straightforward kind of middle of the road bourbon that I like very much. So
yeah,
one of those two, Angel's Envy. I'd probably give them both. I'd be like, hey, this is what I want you all to have for these reasons, and this is what I give you if you're a human.
There you go. Well, that's I like that, man. I would probably go with a bottle of Eagle Rare. I'd let them go for that, and then I would actually, if I had it to spare, I would give them a bottle of George T. Stagg, because I'd be like, let's see what these guys are made of. If I really wanted to be kind of rowdy, I might just give them a bottle of. If I didn't know how friendly they were, I might give them a bottle of Wild Turkey 101.
Man, I've had some bad nights on Wild Turkey. What was the one that was like just crazy, like 150 or some shit like that? What was that one?
That ain't Rare Breed, is it?
Maybe. I think, yeah, it's like 147 proof, I think. Let me look it up.
The 101 bit me. That's all right. See, here's why I have the you hear the stories all the time where the guys like get hammered and they get really sick and they're like, I'm never doing that again. And so I've had that happen. Probably, I can actually count probably 3 to 4 different times I have been like just so drunk that I got sick. And Wild Turkey 101 bit me a few years ago. I was home. I wasn't doing anything. It was like a weekend night. Marcy had to work the next day, so she went to bed, and I was sitting on the couch watching a movie, and I had made a big glass of Wild Turkey 101, which is what I bought the day I turned 21. That was the first bourbon I bought. But I, for some reason, was like, I'm going to get me another bottle of that. And I was drinking it. Well, it was like a Friday or Saturday night, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to have a second glass. And so I made a second glass, and I drink pretty much all my bourbon straight. It could be the shittiest bourbon ever, and I'm pretty much drinking it straight over ice or straight with no ice. And I don't know. That's how I drink it. I actually like the taste of bourbon. And so I was sitting on the couch. Well, sitting on the couch is kind of dangerous there if you're like drinking whiskey or bourbon, because you almost don't realize the effect because you're just like seated on the couch. And I was watching, I don't even remember what I was watching, but I started to get tired, and I had done drank like 2 pretty good glasses of this 101 relatively quickly. Like, it was the same movie was still on. And I remember I like put the empty glass down, and I shut my eyes, and the room was spinning. And I was like, oh no, that I had let it get to that point. Cause the last time the room was spinning, I ended up puking. So I closed my eyes. Oh yeah, the room was spinning, and I like got up, turned the movie off. When I got up, I was like, whoa, man, it like hit me like a ton of bricks. And yeah, I went to the bathroom and like was freaking puking. And I was like, not again. So I have adhered to the not again. Like,
dude, if I adhered to the not agains, I'd probably be in a different dimension right now, because my life would be so much better. My tragic downfalls are doing agains, not agains. I mean, my goodness, it really, like, I sit here and I think about some of the situations I've been in my life, and some of the times where I've been completely just blackout drunk and wild and vulnerable. Dude, oh my God. It's, I ended up it was basically like it was a tabloid in Ireland. I was so drunk at a bar called Copperface Jack's. If you got any Irish listeners, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I made the cover of this tabloid paper
in Ireland.
In Dublin, Ireland, wearing a medium size. I've got a picture of it somewhere. Wearing a medium size Donegal flicking jersey, and this guy is like, he's probably like 150 pounds, 5'10", wearing a 3X Sornex shirt because we swapped shirts, and he was like, "You're a big fucker. I can lift you up." So he tried to like scoot me up and lift me. I'm splayed out, like screaming. I mean, laughing, you know, and that's the picture that they put on the front of that tabloid. It was like, they need to sign this. They're like, who's this big bloke in the undersized jersey? We need to sign him for Donegal. It was like international powerlifter. Should become professional player over here, some shit like that. But yeah, I was like waking up at 3:00 in the afternoon the next day, and happened to be my favorite bar in the world is just down the corner from that. It's called the Bleeding Horse. It was founded in 1659.
Awesome, man.
And it's still got the original bar top. It's just been covered over and re-lacquered and shit like that.
Yeah.
At least in part. I don't know if the whole thing is, but at least in part. And there's a place upstairs called Bowler's Barbers. And that dude gave me a traditional, against the law, old school, straight razor shave. He had the safety razors. I worked out a deal with him. I was like, listen, man, you tell me a story about this town, about this place. Because he told me he was a historian. And he used to give tours there and stuff. So I was like, well, you're cutting my hair. It was just a shave. I said, tell me a little bit about the history of this area of town in Dublin, which it's right on Chapel Street or Canal Street. I mean,
Yeah.
Very, very famous. And he ended up telling me some ghost stories about the building where the Bleeding Horse is, his barber shop upstairs. And dude, I'm telling you, I left there feeling I tipped him pretty heavily because he was awesome. But that's one of those deals to kind of go back to the price point. I had the money in my pocket. He went far and above and beyond any expectations I had. And I still left there feeling like I got a value.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, hold on. So it's illegal?
You can't use a straight razor that you would repeatedly use from client to client. You have those safety razors.
Yeah.
Kind of like a skinning knife.
Yeah.
You know, when you have those, the razors that you put in, it's the same principle. But he had one that he was like, you know, I basically pull this out when the coppers aren't around. That's what he said. Kind of his old school clients, some of his long-term clients and whatever. And, man, he was just exceptional. He's still there. If anybody ever goes to Dublin, it's worth the haircut. But that bar, man, anyhow, I don't even remember what the hell I was talking about, but that bar and that place and that guy, I've been all over the world and I've never forgotten the stories that he told me, the way that he told them, and his Irish accent, man. It was like something out of a movie, you know, like, I don't know how to recreate it other than that, but.
Well, I would love to hear the ghost stories because
so that was the thing is he was like, this place is haunted. You know, this is an old tavern. At times it was rumored to be a brothel. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's factual considering it was a tavern in the 1800s, you know, but the reason that they call it the Bleeding Horse, it's at the top of this ridge, you know, and this is kind of like there's an old church there. The town would have been developed at some level, even in the 1700s. But he would say that this was a destination point. So they would come in, tie their horses to the front, and they would cut the horses at the hoof. So the pressure that they had built from long journeys the pressure would release and they would, you know, the blood would come out.
Yeah.
And that's also, well, don't you remember the Bowler's Barbers right upstairs? Were the one, or not Bowler's, but it was a barber then too. They would actually, that's what the blue and the red on a barber's light outside was showing that they would do bloodletting inside the barbers because that used to be a sign of health or
really?
A belief. Oh yeah, you should check that out. But anyhow, the blood would run downhill. That's why they preferred to bleed them at this bar. And it ended up being called the Bleeding Horse after that. But 1659, I want to say original bar top, at least in part, and then the place is haunted. And just odd stuff like the beer taps will start pouring, cupboards will open. The barber upstairs said that he is for certain someone asked if he was open that day. And the corridor that he had, he was like, there's only one way in. And they would have had to snuck past him, gone down the corridor and hollered. And then there was no way out when he walked down the hallway and there was no one there.
Man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just stuff like that. But super, super interesting place, man. I cannot wait for the world to open back up because that is probably one of my first destinations. I used to fly there coming back from Manchester when I would go see my friends Paul and Tanya. Fantastic people, by the way. But I would always do a layover there for a day or two, spend a couple days just completely inebriated and drunk out of my mind, having the best time of my life. And then I would fly to Reykjavik. And every time I would land in Reykjavik, Iceland, I would leave the airport and go run a 5K. This is right when I first started trying to lose weight.
Yeah.
I'll go out and just like, I would get a cab and I would go down to the downtown. There's like just a big city area down there and just do a 5K and go back to the airport. Cause it was always one of those deals. I would land at like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning and the next flight wasn't until 5 or 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So I was always trying to kill time. Very interesting airport. I mean, very cool place by the way, but it just, man, I've lived a weird life when you think about all the shit I've done.
Well, I love ghost stories. I don't know. I mean, like you said, you thought it was interesting that I had like the old like horror movies, like all the Universal monsters. Dude, I don't know what it is. I mean, Young Frankenstein is like at the top of that one competes with Braveheart for my favorite film. And I don't know, man. I've always loved ghost stories. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, I've always I wanted to know if they were real. And I mean, I have family that really truthfully believes in ghosts. Like they grew up.
I got to get.
If you got a good one, then I definitely want to hear it.
All right. I got a good one. So my Nana's dad, his name was Rube.
Hey, hold on. Let me turn my heater on. It's getting a little chilly in here. Let me turn my heater on real quick. Hold on. Let me go turn it on so I don't get some like cold breeze and freak me out. Hold on. All right. We're good to go.
All right. So my Nana's dad, his name was Rube, and he died when she was very young. I think she was 5 or 6 years old. And I was probably, I guess I would have been 8 or 9 years old. But anyhow, she had been looking for some things that belonged to him, different coins, like he had a little money clip and stuff like that. And you got to think back during the Depression, you know, people buried a lot of shit, right? Because they wanted something that was of value tucked away in case they lost their home or somebody broke in. I mean, times were tough. So this box had been missing forever. I mean, her whole life. And I'm playing outside. This is many, many years later. Obviously, I'm born. I'm 8 or 9 years old at the time. They just moved into this old farmhouse, and this guy came driving up, and it was like an old pickup truck, you know, kind of reminded me, you know, when a movie will flash back in time and they'll almost change the film quality to be from that time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in Sandlot, when they would go back and it would just kind of be like this muffled, kind of grainy, not black and white, but just, you could tell it was an old film.
Yeah.
That's the way the world was normal, but he was that way. Okay. And he was in this old car and ended up talking to me, and he's like, man, you ever go down to that old property? He said, head back to this phone pole. He said, go down here to the third fence post, about 6 feet to the left. I was like, well, okay. He said, tell your Nana, it'll matter. It'll matter. I was like, all right. And he said, have a good one. Drove off.
How old were you at the time?
8 or 9.
Okay.
So I go inside and I tell my Nana, I said, some man told me to go back to the telephone pole to the third fence post 6 feet to the left. She said, what are you talking about? I mean, she thought I was just full of shit.
Yeah.
She said, well, who was this man? You know, she started getting worried, like thought somebody was maybe crazy or something out there messing with me.
Yeah.
So I described the car and I described him. And I mean, the look on her face, you wouldn't believe it. Like tears came in her eyes. She turned ghost white, and she's a dark complected woman. And she just kind of sat down faint, like, you know, she was not fainting, but she just sat down kind of weak in her knees.
Yeah.
And we ended up, and her mother was still alive at the time. And we went back down to the property. Sure enough, past the telephone pole, third fence post, 6 feet to the left, we dug 3 holes just kind of in an area right there. And sure enough, that coin box was in there with the money clip she'd been looking for her whole life. Dude, I'm telling you, I don't know what the fuck it is. I don't know what the fuck that was. And I can't believe I just told you. I mean, like, it's been a long time since I've recalled that. But, I mean, that's as true as I'm sitting here right now.
Was that
happened? Was
that your grandfather? Is that why she turned white? Was that him?
Well, it was her dad.
Oh, it was her. Okay, so I guess. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So he died in a very, very terrible crash when she was 6 years old. Big Hill. He was a dump load or a dump truck driver, or a hauler kind of thing, and they overloaded him, and the brakes went out, and crashed. And I mean, it was a terrible road. They've changed it now because there were so many crashes in the curve where he died.
Yeah.
But the weight of the truck. You know, a lot of times a car just hit the hit the guardrail and kind of skid around, so the wreck wasn't deadly most of the time. There were some deaths out there, but he was one of the first ones. And the weight of the truck actually pushed him down into the ravine and then back up the hill. And the saddest fucking thing about all that is her husband, my papaw, he ended up having, he owned several businesses, was very, very successful in business. Got into some dealings with a guy that was supposed to be helping and ended up stealing from him, and he lost his business and had to go back into truck driving. And the one thing that he told me was he said he didn't care where he died in the world, he just never wanted to die in his truck. And he knew how hard that would be on Nana if it happened.
Yeah.
Well, guess how he died? He died in his truck, busting through a guardrail, going down in a ravine and climbing back up the hill.
Dang, man.
Exactly the same way as her dad died. And I swear to you, every single time that he mentioned dying, that's all he ever said was, I don't want to die in that truck.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the things that kind of set my wheels in motion, probably set me crazy for a while, but realized that you can sit and pray and hope and do all the right things and you're still going to get kicked in the ass. So you might as well figure out what you want and go after it as hard as you can get it, because life doesn't care what you want.
Yeah.
So you have to really, and that's really, that him dying was the precursor to me taking the invitation to go to Westside.
Yeah.
Like I was searching for that meaning. I was searching for that thing to build me out. And then you have this thing. It's like, man, my grandfather only had one prayer that he ever prayed and it didn't come true. So maybe if he didn't want to die in that truck, he should have done something else.
Yeah.
And that's a very callous way of looking at it. But it's like, well, maybe if I don't want to live in this town, I need to leave. Maybe if I want to be this power lifter, I need to do it.
Yep.
So it just it was a catalyst for a lot of those things. But I swear to you, man, I've never made rhyme or reason of that person that day. I've had a couple of other encounters.
Well, what did she say when y'all found the box?
Sobbed. I mean, just absolutely sobbed and couldn't believe it, and was like trying to get me to go back and replay it over and over again. She was trying to reconnect with whatever that was in some way, and just wasn't. I mean, seeing your grandmother beg you to like let her talk to her dad when you're 9 years old. I wouldn't say it's traumatic in a bad way, but like the feeling that you want to help but you can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was pretty tough because she was in hysterics. So, but I mean, ultimately she was grateful, to have the things back. And it wasn't the value of them, because she still has those things and they're still in the box and they're still, in the closet. But it was the connection to her dad, because they were so poor. And when he died, they had nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. So, when they moved out, I'm sure that my Granny Hill, his wife, she moved on fairly quickly, because, I mean, right, wrong, or whatever, she's a woman with 3 kids. You need stability, and I think she went through a couple of husbands pretty quickly searching for that. And then she finally met, Paul Cook, what we called him, Paul Cook. But, that was a little bit later, in 30s or 40s, but they spent 50 years married together. So,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It just, life has a weird way, man.
It does. And that's, man, I don't know. I know I've got family that the house they grew up in, this was an old house, and actually it used to be an old hospital, and they had like sold it, because this was back probably, I'm trying to think of when they would have got this house. Probably would have been in the 40s or 50s, and it had been a hospital prior to that. And they redid it because, people didn't have a bunch of money, and the family moved in here. They had kids, and the kids had gotten a little older. And I'm not saying their names on here just people would know them, but like, and I've talked to them, and they're like, well, I don't really want you telling them like by name, but I mean, I'll tell you off air. But when they got a little older, one of the women said she would get in trouble with her mom because her mom would come in there and be like, y'all were making so much noise running up and down that hallway. You about to drive me crazy. Like at night or something. She'd be like, all night long, y'all were up. And like I said, even she would even come in there and get on to them and be like, if y'all don't quit running up and down the hallway. And they were like, we haven't been out of our bedroom. Like, they had been in the living room. Like they had not been in the hallway. And their mother would hear freaking kids playing and running in the hallway all the time. Like she said, she heard that. And I want to say somebody else said they also heard like kids making noise in the hallway one time. Like there was one specific hallway in this house that they would always hear this in. And I know one of their children, she had an experience where she felt like she woke up and she was awake and aware, but she could not get up. And she said it felt like somebody was holding her down by her shoulders. Like they call it like sleep paralysis or something now, I think. But she didn't, like she said it physically felt like hands were on her shoulders holding her down. So it was some weird stuff going on in this house. And the house actually has been torn down because after the parents died, I can't remember, one of the children actually inherited the home, and because of how weird it was and the things that would happen in there, she actually had it torn down. So I don't know. I'm like,
do you think that a spirit would differentiate between the house and the property? You know what I mean? Like, do you think just because the house is gone that they would leave?
I mean, I wouldn't think so. I mean, I wouldn't think.
So let me ask you straight up. You mentioned that your family members had to leave, and sometimes people kind of skirt the fact that they believe on relatives. Is that what you did? Do you believe that it's possible? Because my feeling is there's no more energy created, right?
Yeah.
Energy has always been constant. So if that energy, because you do know that there's a difference between a dead body and a live body, right? It's like 1.6 grams or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very micro. So that's what they consider the soul to be. So what if these souls are just in purgatory of some sort until they can find the next body, quote unquote, whether that's a dandelion or an octopus, to kind of reside in.
See,
what if that's what do you think about that? Do you think that there's any, because one thing's dying energy would become another living thing's energy.
Yeah.
Is what I'm throwing out there at you.
I don't see here's where I've always struggled. And I guess it kind of goes with this, with ghosts is, I mean, as you know, and people not like, I am a Christian. And so that's right. What I've always wrestled with. 'Cause I mean, I believe in heaven and hell, and I don't believe, I think maybe Catholics that believe there is like the purgatory, like the in-between. I don't believe in the in-between. I believe that there is heaven and hell. And so I've always wondered, like, part of me actually just wants there to be ghosts because I'm fascinated by it. But,
sure.
Like, I mean, I'll admit that, like it's like the same part of me that's like fascinated by aliens, like kind of thing. But, so where I can't, and in the Bible, it does say we will not know everything. Like, so there's aspects to this world and things and the spiritual realm and all this that I'm just not going to know. And, maybe, I don't know, it could fall into that, or on the flip side, where I do think about, and something I certainly do believe in, is demons. I do believe in demons. Like,
all right, so now we're splitting hairs, because what is a demon versus a ghost?
Well, and that's where it's, to me, a demon would be like an evil entity, I guess. So that's where, like, if somebody's like, I saw a ghost of, well, like that encounter that you had, I wouldn't say that was a demon because there was not an evil intention with that. Like, you had an encounter, like there was not. So that's the stuff that's like, in all honesty, I'm okay with saying I don't know.
Sure.
Like,
no, I mean, that's the thing is, it's like, if even telling you that story, I know that when you say things like that, there's a certain amount of skepticism that just, even me saying it is like, and this sounds so fucking dumb, but the truth of the matter is, if I hadn't experienced it, I would question every person that told me that story.
Yeah.
I would be like, there's no way. But I mean, you can see the box. You know what I mean? It's like, it's there. So that actually happened in some capacity, whether it was a dream, because have you ever had deja vu where you've like, you experience a moment and you've dreamed about it, or you've thought about it, or you felt that feeling. So, I could almost liken it up to that. Cause man, when I was a kid, you hear how crazy my mind is now. When I was a kid with full blown, pineal gland and running wild imagination, I could have been dreaming, at some level, or I could have been, I don't know that a child's brain is any different than an adult brain on like a psychedelic trip.
But how would a dream?
You're definitely more in tune. But listen, you're more in tune to things when you're under we'll just say under the guidance of something like psilocybin or DMT. I've done both of those things. I've done acid. I've done a lot of these things, and there are things that you are privy to.
Yeah,
there's information going on around us right now, and from an energy level, from a geometric level, it is actually happening. Our brain just can't see it within the context of quote unquote reality. So we have to have something to bend that before we can start to see these other things. And for me, that was psilocybin, DMT, or LSD. Those things allowed my brain to open up corridors to see and feel other things. And I would think it'd be very likely when you look at what those things do, which is enlighten and expand and tickle, quote unquote, tickle the pineal gland for an adult who's has recessed greatly. When you look at a child, their pineal gland is basically on fire at all times. So what is it to say that a child that looks at the sky and can tell you a story about all the birds isn't actually seeing those birds? They may not actually be there for us to see, but that other level of whatever the pineal gland's function is allows kids to see things that only drugs have recreated for me, and not like in a recreational level, like in a seeking answers and fulfillment in my life kind of level. So. Yeah.
Well, but I
don't know.
I still am like, though, where would you, I don't feel like that encounter with, I guess he would have been your great grandfather, would have been a dream, because where would the dream come from? Like, I guess that's kind
of what I'm saying. Like kids are somewhat in a dream state at all times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they don't have a real grasp on reality. They don't have a full spectrum of parameters to define what reality is. And, what do they say? Kids' imaginations run wild.
Yeah.
Well, what if their ability to have an imagination run wild means that they have the concept or the capacity to believe in something that we've long since stopped believing in?
Yeah.
Like obviously they can believe in Santa Claus because we tell them to, but what if they can believe in the vision of, hey, there was some guy in the road that told me this, and somehow they can see it because they don't know that they shouldn't see it.
Yeah.
Or they haven't been, you know what I mean? I'm getting real metaphysical here.
But I get it. I'm following you. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's something to that because at a chemical level, their brains are operating differently than ours through the pineal gland. So,
so
it's an interesting theory to kind of meander through.
So then are you saying you do believe in ghosts or you don't?
I think I definitively believe that people have encounters that repeatedly, seemingly are somewhat paranormal and have shared experiences with people that they knew in their life. So yes, I would say that on those terms, subjectively, I believe in ghosts.
Yeah. I could say like that's what it's that's kind of the same spectrum, I guess, I fall. All right, like with aliens, and this is a topic that we gotta talk about.
Sure.
All right, I actually had my preacher on here it's been like 20 episodes or something ago, and because he has a pretty wild story. He was actually he played in the prime country era. He was played the piano and keyboard for like Joe DiMessina and some of these others. So he had a really awesome story. But I asked him, I said, from a biblical perspective, what do you think about aliens? And he said, well, and he quoted this song, and I cannot remember the guy's name. It's called UFO is the song. And it's like this long-haired, and now this dude was a hippie, long-haired, but he was a Christian music singer from like the 70s or 80s. And this song, he says, if there's life on other planets, then I'm sure he's been there and died to save their souls too. Which it sounds funny, but I'm like, well, I mean, maybe this is so. So that was kind of his thing. He wasn't like, I can't say there's not aliens. And again, he said, because we don't know everything. And so
did you listen to the Brian Greene episode on Rogan? He was the physicist.
No, I have not.
God, you need to tear into that one. I mean, it's all theoretical physics, entanglement theory, string theory, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, mathematically, I guess, and I'm paring this down to an idiot's version, but because we are here, that proves that here can happen.
Yeah.
So, and we understand that the universe is far, far more vast than we can understand or comprehend. So mathematically, they have all these equations and these algorithms, I guess, that give you probability. Well, the probability that this can happen once in a basic vortex that is the universe means it can happen twice, which means it can happen infinity. So he said, within the realm of infinity, you and I are having this same conversation infinite times over throughout the universe. But also, if I said I didn't believe in ghosts, somewhere in the universe, that conversation is continuing in a different direction than this one.
Yeah.
He said there are infinite possibilities for the same reality to be shared with different outcomes every single time, and simultaneously the same outcomes every single time.
So, are you saying that there'd be in another realm, basically two guys just like us having the same conversation?
No, not just like us. It would be Logan and Brandon. It would be us up until this point, exactly the same in every scenario of where this conversation could go in between. That's how big our universe is.
I got you. So then he could,
I mean,
we're getting into some Back to the Future.
But when you listen to his explanation of it, yes, it's like, I'm like the fingertips of Sylvester Stallone in Cliffhanger when he's doing that inverted upside down hang, just trying to hold on for comprehension of what's being said. But if you can piece it together, that's ultimately what he's saying, is that if life can occur once on Earth in the Milky Way, the probability is that there are infinite Milky Ways out there, which means the replication of the Earth process, the human process, your process, my process, is repeated infinite times over the breadth of the universe.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was also saying that Einstein's relativity has sped up to understand that the past, present, and future all simultaneously existing in the universe.
This dude sounds like a freaking way smarter guy than me.
He is, and he's way smarter than me too. And even that's what he said. It was like, we are constantly projecting theories that we're trying to disprove.
Yeah.
He's like, that's the one thing. Man, he was like, the things that I'm telling you have not able to been like tangibly proven. Like, hey, I haven't introduced you to Logan Hanks 2.0, but he was like, mathematically, when you look at enough data and measure that against the probability that it could happen again, he was like, well, we've been collecting data at a rate that's never been seen before for years and years and years. So our understanding keeps coming closer and closer and closer to an answer or solution. And the solution continues to say that there are infinite possibilities within an infinite universe.
Yeah. So then on that one, are you saying you do believe in aliens or you don't?
I would say that more than anything, it would be the belief of probability, and to think that in a universe that is supposedly infinite, and at least within my reach of needing a telescope to see certain stars or certain planets, understanding just how big that really is, I think that it would be egregiously arrogant to think that if you want to bring it back to a God, and let's say it was a Christian God, it would be extremely odd to me that a God that had that kind of power and was basically created in love, why he would not create more people or more opportunity for life on other planets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense. And here's where and again, I'm telling you right now, I felt God at times in my life when I was absolutely certain there was no God. But I'm not able to qualify or define what I think God is. Much different than you. Like I don't take any issue with Christianity as far as I've heard the lessons. I think there's value in the stories, whether you believe in God or you don't. I think there's beauty in the songs. I have just not been able to reconcile some of the issues that I have drawn up with the religion that I have seen.
Yeah.
You know, your upbringing in church and stuff may be different, but the earth as it is at one point in time, understanding that if we are in fact an explosion in a Big Bang theory, we are constantly drafting further and further and further from that center point of the explosion, correct? So Earth at one point in time would have been so close to the sun that it couldn't hold human life. And it's going to be one way at one point in time so far away from the sun that it's so cold that it won't be able to sustain human life.
Yeah.
Now, that's thousands and hundreds of thousands and maybe not millions of years. But the fact of the matter is, at one point in time, in what we know about measurable history, we were once so close to the sun that humans couldn't exist. And we will once again be so far away from the sun, or once at some point be so far away from the sun that we can't exist. So is this just our 15 minutes of fame in God's world? Or was this divine creation where he said, you know what, now's the time because the earth is just so far away that humans can sustain life. Here we are, you know, and that's what I wrestle with.
Yeah.
Is like, well, if it was intelligent design, if it was a divine creation, did he just wait until one point in time? Because in the time that the Bible was written, they didn't know that they were traveling through space on a 23,000 mile around Earth that was orbiting through space hundreds and thousands of miles per hour. You know, they didn't recognize that.
Yeah.
So that's just, I'm not trying to deconstruct Christianity. I'm just saying, like, for me, I try to look at things very pragmatically. When you present that this is all created at one given time with one intended creation, well, how do we explain humans weren't here then and humans won't be here there, but God just gave us this window to exist and nowhere else in time or nowhere else in the universe? Just seems like we got pretty fucking lucky if that's the case. And I'm not saying that we aren't,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying in the scope of infinity and in the scope of what is and what is to come, if this is the only timeline, 60,000 or 80,000 or 100,000 years is all he chose out of millennia of infinity, this time and place, this one planet, either God is way smarter and cooler than I am, and probably that's the case, and they're satisfied with less, not more. But it just doesn't jive with what I think I would do if I was God, and maybe that's the problem altogether.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
comparing myself to God.
Well, that's what I don't know. You know, man, it's a, like I said, that's been from a spiritual aspect. That's how I look at even the ghost thing and the alien thing. Like, I can say probably pretty comfortably if I was not like a man of faith, I would probably have no hold up in the alien or spirit, ghost thing, either one of those. Like, because I'd be like, why not? But hold on. But let me ask you this: what if those things? Okay, and I only challenge you this because I want you to be a better Christian if that is your faith.
What if John Doe alien landed his spaceship here right now, and your whole concept of belief is that it's not in the Bible, but here it is, and that confronts your definition of what Christianity is. You know what I mean? If he came, then I would probably just assume that he was part of the aspects that I said I would not understand. Like, and sure. That seems like I know that's like a cop-out answer, but that's literally just like, I do believe that there's elements that we will not understand. Like, I mean, the Bible tells us that, so that's right. And I'm not trying to cop out on you. No. I totally respect what you're saying, and I think that is fair. All I'm saying is, and maybe this is me coming at it from a different angle, and in a much more challenging angle. But let's say that there's something, you know, in the Bible that says this is absolutely the way that it is. This is, you know, divorce, or, you know, a child out of wedlock or whatever, and you live your whole life feeling these bitterness or feeling this judgment or feeling this like that is wrong, even if it's not a judgment or a finger pointing thing. It's like, I certainly want to try to avoid these things in my life, you know? Yeah. And then you find yourself in that situation. How do you reconcile your faith when basically you're an abomination? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, well, that's the one thing. That's the one thing that challenges me. Is it's like, well, man, you know, I know somebody that's killed a guy. I mean, and I'm not talking in combat. I'm talking like actually did jail time for it. And that guy has probably done more for humanity since he's been out of prison, through positive works, through fundraising, through starting 2 schools, and on and on and on. So, and I don't think he claims to be a Christian. I don't think he's ever asked to be forgiven, you know, other than from the parents of the woman that he was in a relationship with and killed. Yeah. I don't think that he has asked for a spiritual forgiveness, but where does a guy like that fall? A guy that ultimately redeemed himself. You know what I mean? Like, well, or maybe let's say he was a Christian, you know, and he kills this person, which is that's a carnal sin. That's one of the 10 commandments, but yet goes on and does all these amazing things. Like, well, see, I don't believe. Do you think it is inherent to Christianity to ask forgiveness, or do you think that you were forgiven as a rite of your baptism? Well, all right. So I know there are some, I guess, denominations where they think like the baptism, you have to be baptized. Now, I guess for reference, I am a Cumberland Presbyterian, was what I go to. And I mean, we will baptize, like I was baptized, my wife was baptized, my children, but it's not, baptism really means nothing more than this is like an external showing that we will raise them in a home of faith. And with that, like, we don't believe that baptizing them saves them.
like there are some denominations that believe like if you're bad, because there's people I've heard people before. They're like they went to church when they were a kid and they got baptized when they were 9 years old and they like never went back again. But if you're like, are you a Christian? They're like, oh yeah, man, I got baptized when I was 9. And they're like 40. And it's like, oh yeah, where do you go to church? Oh man, I ain't been since I got baptized. But like, and so the thing I struggle with that is, one, if you're a Christian, you want to have a relationship with God. Like you want to go to church because you learn about him and study him. But where I look at with like that guy you're talking about, one of the things with Christianity, and this is probably a bad job on some people that would call themselves Christians, and they might be, and they're just not portraying it well, is redemption. Like Christianity offers redemption. Like there's so many, I feel like, other faiths and beliefs that like you do these things and it's like growing up, I actually used to think that if someone killed themselves, then it was like an automatic ticket to hell. Like I was like, that's the unforgivable sin. Like growing up, I was always like, everything else you can be forgiven for, but if you kill yourself, then you go to hell. And I wrestled with that when I got older because of a person that I knew really well and knew that they were saved killed themselves. And I was like, surely they're not in hell, because I was like, in my heart, I know that they were saved. And I talked to my preacher about it at the time, and he was like, he said, one, God knows their heart. And he said, if someone kills themselves, he said, they're not in their right mind. And he said, so God knows his heart. Like there is also denominations that believe that you absolutely have to repent of every sin before you die or you go to hell. Well, if I'm driving somewhere tomorrow and like we said, I road rage and somebody pulls out and I'm like, you dumb SOB. And then a semi truck T-bones me and kills me. Like, does that mean I go to hell because I just cussed this guy out and like hated my brother or something? I don't believe so. If I'm truly saved, because one, I do believe when Jesus died on the cross, he died for all our sins. Now, we do repent. You want to repent and ask forgiveness. Like a guy that is a murderer that killed somebody. We actually just talked about this in one of our little small groups here recently at church. Somebody that we could see as being like the worst person possible could actually get redemption through faith. Like, I mean, and it feels weird to even say it, but like a freaking person that like the worst thing, like a pedophile could pray for forgiveness. And if he truly repents and truly turns from the sin, then he can be redeemed through faith. Like then your friend that you're talking about, or this guy, that killed this girl or killed whoever, he can get redemption through faith. I mean, like God will forgive him and he's not condemned to hell. Like even though he murdered someone. I mean, technically, if I don't like someone and in my mind I'm like, this person's a dumbass and like I hate this person, I have basically committed murder in my heart on this person. So I don't see any sin being greater than the other. That's how I believe. I don't believe that there is a sin greater than the other. And I mean, God spread his forgiveness out. Like if someone will truly repent to him and give their life to them, then I mean, I think anybody can be redeemed.
Well, I mean, at least, the thing that's most important to me as your friend is that you've thought about it. Because, I know people in my life that I can ask that question to, and it's just like a deer in the headlights. And that's the one thing that I really look for in anybody is like, listen, I don't care how you live your life. I don't care what set of rules or dynamics or parameters you live around or within. But if you're just doing it because monkey see, monkey do, probably going to lose a little respect for what that is, just because, I really respect the fact that, your answer has been thought about, you've considered it, you've talked to other people about it. And that's really all I can ask anybody to do is just like check yourself, vet your belief systems against people who have different viewpoints and know where you stand. I think that's a real problem that we have as a nation right now, and really as a world, is that we're so wishy-washy.
Yeah.
We're too trendy. You know what I mean? And I think that people compromise themselves and ultimately compromise their soul at some level, whether you talk about an afterlife or in the here and now. They compromise their soul because they're following trends, not what they actually believe. And I think people need to do more digging into what they actually are about, who they actually are, and what they actually believe, so you can live for those things.
Yeah.
You won't compromise those things if you believe in them.
Well, that's, I don't say this from like a standpoint of ego or pride, but I've never struggled with peer pressure. Even in high school, like I never had a problem with peer pressure because like you said, at the end of the day, I've always, I don't know, I guess considered I've known who I am, I guess, and known the person that I want to be. And so I don't know, I never struggled with that. And I guess that kind of goes hand in hand. I mean, I do think about things and like, why do I believe this way? And it did help whenever I got my first job as a machinist. I mean, I went to a private school. Everybody there would call themselves a Christian. And I went to tech school locally there. I mean, I worked on the farm for a little bit and then went to tech school. We had one guy in there that called himself an atheist in the class. And he was a younger guy. I never really talked to him very much anyway. So like the group that I was kind of my clique, I guess, and all of us would have called ourselves Christians. And so then I get a job at this machine shop, and one of the guys is actually wearing a like Christian shirt. He was in his 50s, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. I'm glad to see kind of like-minded guys. Well, he was a raging atheist, and he wore those shirts to like mock Christianity. And then another guy he was a Marine that had gotten blown up by an IED. Became a great friend of mine. He was a raging atheist, and half the people up there were from Bosnia, and they were all devout Muslims. And so for like a young Christian guy that had grown up in a sheltered like environment, I was like stepping into the wolf's den, man, whenever I like went to work there. But it actually helped me because I had to really learn why I believed because I mean, they challenged me all the time. I mean, we ended up becoming friends to the point that we stopped pushing each other's buttons. Like, we became good enough friends that it was like, I don't want to, like, I know where he believes and he knows what I believe. And I don't, at this point, like, if Derek had wanted to come to me and talk to me about anything faith related, he knows that he could have, but he wasn't going to mock my religion to me anymore because at this point he was my friend and he no longer wanted to damage that relationship. So we got to that point, but it was kind of like, again, like baptism by fire whenever I went in there. So,
yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing is it's like the best scientists, I saw a quote the other day and I don't remember who said it, but it was great. It said the best scientists study 180s, because it's like as soon as I throw my theory out there that I believe this, I better start trying to deconstruct it. Yeah. And really try to pick it apart, because one, if I believe this thing and I go out here and I publish papers on it and I get peer reviews, and then I just look like a fool because I didn't take the time to just ask, because I wanted to believe in it so strongly, I didn't even ask the simple questions that were right in front of my face. Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the torments of the way that I think is I can get caught up in 6,000 questions about the simplest thing, trying to understand, like, I play mental chess on everything.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting, but at the same time, you mentioned that I get deep sometimes. Dude, if we're talking about something at any level, chances are I have spent hours, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, scouring through things just because I really want to understand where, not just that I believe, like, I don't want to just identify what I believe in, but I want to identify what created that belief. Like,
yeah,
has this really ever been tested? Has it ever been corrupted? I don't know. It comes from somewhere, but as much as I told a guy today, I told Ross Hillier today, who sent me a video of or song, Never Leave Harlan Alive, and it was by this particular artist. He said it's the kind of song that's been on repeat every day. And there was a girl, she was a hometown girl, and she sang that song at a graduation. And I'm telling you, there wasn't a sound in that room but her voice. There wasn't a dry eye in the place. And that was one of the most clear-cut times that I had ever felt what I would consider to be God.
Yeah.
Was when she sang that song. And I don't know that it was necessarily her, but it was her voice. And it was one of those things that I will never forget as long as I live, looking around, total captivation.
Yeah.
Every single person was locked in on every breath that she took and every sound or every note that she sung. And there was something deeper and more beautiful than 10 minutes before, and I felt that in the woods a few times. I felt that probably there's a couple spots I can identify that I like to frequent that I feel hints of that when I'm there. You know what I mean? They feel very spiritual, very, very, I don't want to say religious necessarily because there's nothing attached to it, but it's like, it would be like a quasi-religious experience just by sitting there.
Yeah.
Like something's a little different when I'm there. So, yeah, I mean, God has an interesting narrative in my life, I think, because it's something I've never really given up on as a possibility, but it's also something I've never really tried to, or never really been able to quite settle on where it is I exactly fall on the spectrum of things.
Yeah. Well, I don't want you to give up on it.
Well, no, I mean, and I think about that too. And my mom says that kind of stuff. My mom she's a very devout Christian. She believes very strongly in her faith. My granny, my whole family is very much religious. And I think there is a part of me that sometimes resists the urge to go that direction because it's like, it's not that I'm ashamed of the potential to be a Christian or to believe in God, but it's also like I feel somewhat of a pressure to go that direction.
Yeah.
And it's just my nature to kind of buck all that. So it's like, no, not for me, even though there are aspects of it that might feel very much like for me. So I think I needed to address a lot of the stuff that I've got with myself first, because it's like, and maybe that's completely wrong from a Christian perspective, but it's like, I didn't want to be the guy that had made all the bad choices and started asking for somebody else to bail me out. I started to fix the problems in my life. I started to address my shortcomings in life, and then started to seek something higher, and I think that's where I am on the crest of becoming the best version of myself, is really clearly identifying what it is I believe, and also continuing to remain open to the possibility that I've always been wrong.
Yeah.
I will never solidify the fact that I think that I can't learn more. I won't say that I could be wrong forever, but I won't say that I can't learn more. You know what I mean?
Yep. No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Well, that's, I guess that's one thing that it's kind of, I don't know why it is, but it's always, And I march the beat 'em on drum. And like you said, you will kind of buck if someone's kind of pushing you in a direction. In a lot of ways, I'm the same way. But for some reason, like having faith in God and being a Christian, that is just, I've never had a hard time with that. Like that's what, if someone was like, why do you do that? Like, and I'm just like, I mean, growing up, I was like, well, that's just what I believe. Like the faith aspect of it is like the easiest aspect for me. And some people really struggle with that. I mean, and I'm not saying I've never, like growing up, I've never had doubts. And you have doubts, and then that's when you like study and dig down. And I think that as a Christian, you ought to like explore, like, why do I believe like this? Like you said, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with a person that's a Christian being like, well, why am I a Christian? And figuring it out, because one, as a Christian, it will more than likely strengthen your faith. Like if you're like, well, I'm a Christian and I believe in God, but then it's like, well, why do I believe in God? And then you go down the path of why. Like some people think like you should never you shouldn't question. It's fine to question, and then you go down the path. I mean, like when I was, like I said, challenged, like those guys were atheists, and they were saying stuff trying to cut my faith, like trying to make me, I guess, not believe. And they actually, in a lot of ways, did me a favor, because they actually strengthened my faith, because then I like dug into the word harder. And because I was like, I almost was going into combat. Like I was like, all right, I'm going up against these guys. Like, God help me figure out what to say. And like you just tell me what to say. And like I learned really why I believed what I did. So no, man, I don't think there's anything wrong with, why do I believe like this, and exploring things. And but no, dude, like I said, I'm not giving up hope on you.
You and my mom's the only two left.
Well, I ain't giving up on you.
Well, good, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, let's see now. The next one, the Second Amendment of threats. They want us to talk a little bit about that. Now, I thought about this. I was thinking about this question, or kind of just topic earlier. And I was thinking about what great salesmen Democrats are for guns, because Joe Biden, and actually I even thought even more about this. I was like, I bet you, like if you talk to the guys at Remington or something, or if they put an article out, it'd be like with NRA's magazine, and it's going to be a huge pro-gun thing. But like, I bet you that at the just straight sales level, Remington, Winchester, like some of your big commercial firearm producers, I bet in a way they actually like it when a Democrat gets elected, because guns fly off the shelf.
Well, you got to look at the reality of the people that are investing in these gun companies, and you need to look at the names that are attached to some of those investments and associations. It may not necessarily be that they are invested in a Mossberg or a Kimber or, a Smith & Wesson. But guess who's invested in the ammo? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a muddy trail to go down. But I don't want to point fingers, and I don't really want to make it a political issue at all. I want to make it a constitutional issue. And the first and foremost, let me preface everything that I say in that I'm saying what I'm saying based on information that I have today. If I say something that's inaccurate or stupid sounding or whatever, because I'm stupid and I'm giving you inaccurate information, but it is the truth, and it is my honest feeling as of this moment. So, and I'm always open to hear anybody's opinion for the same very reason, that Logan and I were just talking about.
Yeah.
I can look at the mass media today and realize that there are 54 shootings this month and understand that's a problem. I can understand that people view guns as a fast track to violence. They're very effective at what they are designed for. So I can hear all those arguments, and I can hear, this and that about, well, this wouldn't have happened and this wouldn't have happened, and maybe that's right. But the overwhelming fact, first and foremost, is the Constitution speaks the word shall not be infringed upon. And it actually mentions the word militia.
Yeah.
Now, that's the word and the phrase that actually sticks out to me more than right to bear arms. And the reason being, when the Constitution was drafted, we had just seceded ourselves from British tyranny. And the idea being that an average American citizen needed to be able to declare, protect, and defend his freedom from any enemy abroad or ashore.
Yeah.
So whether that was domestic, as in our own people, our own government, or what have you. And the fact of the matter is, at those same times, yes, we were talking about muskets. Yes, we were talking about pistols. It doesn't change the fact that they were legally bound to be able to defend themselves from equal and escalating weaponry against the own government, because they understood when the Constitution was drafted that governments can become corrupt.
Yep.
Hence the reason we just left Britain.
Yep.
So while I do not understand individually owning a tank, or I do not individually understand owning rocket launchers and 15 versions of saws and ARs and all this kind of stuff, I do own an AR. I do own several shotguns. I do own several pistols. I do own several rifles. The fact of the matter is, none of those firearms, I don't want to get sidetracked on myself and go back to my argument just a second. I'll come back around. The point being, people are allowed and legally bound to be able to own those things because our military has such options.
Yeah.
Now, on that statement, excuse me, we have to be able to defend ourselves, in fact, in case our government becomes corrupt or tyrannical or treasonous. And I think that is echoed throughout the time frame of Thomas Jefferson's life, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, John Adams, on and on and on and on and on. There is a succession of leading politicians admitting that if this project, if this beautiful science experiment that we call America ever goes corrupt, it is up to the people to take it back. How do you take something back if you are on your heels from a weaponry standpoint? I don't care how bad you are as a bladesman. If you come into a gunfight with a sword and that distance starting is 15 feet away, you can swing that sword all you want to, but your ass is dead.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of what happened to the samurai. They were outgunned, literally. The greatest fighting force the world has probably ever known up until that point was the samurai. And you got a bunch of half-drunk, half-cocked Americans and a lot of people that were importing those guns that were able to succeed over those samurai who were well-trained and well-disciplined. Okay? The same fact is true. We are 330 million people, correct?
Yep.
More or less. Just like we're talking about, seven deaths related to the vaccines, not that much. In the scheme of 330 million people, 54 shootings in a month. And I sound like a complete statistical asshole when I say this. When you put 330 million people on top of one another, when you put 330 million people in extreme debt, in a pandemic, when you put people in a situation like they have been in for the last year and really probably ultimately their entire lives, just like we were talking about earlier, the guy that flipped you off isn't ultimately paramountly mad at you. They're mad at the fucking world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And these people who go out and commit these crimes with guns would find mischievous ways to commit crimes and heinous violence through other means because they are misguided, misdirected, and angry. I believe that wholeheartedly. Look around the world where there aren't guns. Stabbings in London were through the roof, setting records. On and on and on. And I think it is more a direction of the mental state of the world than it is the weapon state of the world.
Yep.
Because if weapons were truly the problem, 330 million Americans, and I think there's 300 or 250 billion guns, whatever it is, or million guns, So nearly one gun per American. And it sounds terrible to say because people die, but 54 shootings for all that is going on, for all that is happening, and all that is really constructed in the world, we're missing the bigger point. We have to defend ourselves from the threat abroad and within. And the fact of the matter is, you can ask any military historian, any military strategist, and they will tell you the reason there has never been a combative force on American soil is because there are nearly 200 million plus guns in this country. You can't just storm the beaches here because we line up shoulder to shoulder, everyone armed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There is a reason that Second Amendment was crafted, drafted, and written the way that it was. They understood the implications of putting the words shall not be infringed. And what better protection from a government that could become corrupt and change such amendments than to say shall not be infringed? Of all the things that can be misconstrued in the world, shall not be infringed, and the right to form a militia. Those two things stand out more than the right to bear.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. Well,
period. End of story.
What do you? Oh yeah. Okay. So I'm with you, dude. It's as concerned.
I hate it's an ugly way to say it. Like only 54 shootings. People died. People went out that day that expected to come home. Others lost children. Listen, I feel all of that. But if you're mad about 54, we better get our asses in gear and really start trying to understand what's going on from a mental standpoint in this country, because the population is booming.
Yeah.
And the more you put people on top of each other, the more land prices go up, the more the gallons of gas go up, the more that milk goes up. I can guarantee you there will be an escalation in violence. And if I am reaching for violence, I am reaching for maximum force, and that will always be the gun. That is not the gun's fault necessarily. It is a systemic problem from so many other problems that has a violent and effective end that is a weapon called a gun.
Yeah.
And that's what people will reach for.
Yep.
But if you were in a dire situation of protection, in a dire situation to save your child or your spouse or your parent or your grandparent, would you reach for a butter knife if the criminal across you was holding a gun? No. You would reach for maximum force, for maximum protection, and maximum result. We cannot choose people's intentions, but we have to create things that can defend us from ultimate evils, understanding that sometimes ultimate evils harm good.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, and you can't have true freedom without risk. I mean, it comes with it. And that's like, man, I try to not watch a whole lot of the news, hardly at all anymore. But I saw recently where Biden made a remark that it was something about the amendments are basically not set in stone. Like it was something about, and so if that deteriorates, if one amendment can deteriorate or be altered like that, then in all honesty, none of the amendments are safe. And
that's the president of the United States. And to me, that's almost a treasonous statement. And I'm not trying to use that word like some hashtag or some cutesy shit. It is basically deconstructing the value of what an amendment is in a statement.
Yeah.
Now, you see what I'm saying? And it's a very, very serious thing that we hold our politicians to a higher standard for what they say. I would be having this conversation with you about Trump. That dude was an absolute shit show moron sometimes with the things he said. Should be held feet to the flame on a lot of things that he said.
Yeah.
But we've got to be really, really careful when we just throw out there, like, I'm not going to get on this tangent, but you can't love a pizza the same way that you love your wife. So why are you saying you love that pizza? You know what I mean? Like those
Yeah.
are things that I think about. I'm a fucking lunatic, but I am understanding enough to say that if the president of the United States, who is speaking to a country of 330 million people who are vulnerable, beat down, looking for hope, looking for resolution and answers, and he's saying, well, these amendments don't mean so much. Well, what door did he just open for so many future offenders of so many future amendments or current amendments to say, well, these aren't absolute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not absolute and forever. Well, what about taxes, homie? Like,
yeah,
they're not forever. They're not absolute.
That's what I saw a thing. It was like, okay, if
but dude, let's get real fucking serious. I get sick and tired. I love this country. I was taught to love this country. I was taught to respect this country. I was taught to stand for the flag. I was taught to say the pledge. I was taught to hold my hand over the heart when I sing the national anthem.
Yep.
I will continue to do those things for the rest of my life, not as a disrespect to anyone or any group or any people. I will do it with respect to my grandfather, Bob Lilly, who served in the military and taught me those lessons and instilled those things in me. So I will continue to love this country. What I won't continue to say is that I am free. No country where you pay a 30% tax am I free. No country where I am cautionary on what I say and how I say it, because I have a family, I have friends that respect me, and I'm involved with companies and corporations that respect me, and I can't always articulate exactly what I feel, how I feel it, because of the blowback or the fear of blowback that might come from that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not, it's not any one particular thing. You can say something purely intended and actually meaningful and be dissected just because it doesn't agree with some other group or some other person or some other feeling.
Yep.
And so to me, that's not freedom of speech. The fact that some states prohibit the ability for me to carry a firearm in some of the cities where I feel the most unsafe, i.e. Chicago, i.e. New York City, that doesn't make me feel free. The fact that I have to pay taxes higher and higher and higher, the fact that the courthouse gets to determine what my vehicle's worth, and I say, okay, I'll pay taxes on that if you'll buy the truck for me for that price after it's all said and done.
Yeah.
I refuse to continue to play the game that we are free. I think that we have freedoms. I think that we have abilities and capabilities that other people would kill and do kill for to be a part of and lose their own lives trying to get here. I'm empathetic to the migrants that want to come here. I really am. I have no problem with a person wanting to come here. I do think the United States needs to make it a process that is repeatable and sustainable so that somebody has a clear path rather than having to wait years and years and years and jump through hoops and pay expensive lawyers. I think that there should be, just like anything else, there should be a process.
Yeah.
So I understand the desire to come here. I understand the fact that we want to love this country, but we got to stop fooling ourselves. We are not free. We are not free. We are living in a state of servanthood to a government that continually and perpetually sells us out short to other countries.
Well,
whether that be labor, whether that be technology, whether that be, whatever you want to call it, we are getting sold downstream, giving jobs to other nations, giving money to other countries that are failing to spend that money properly or ethically or even at all on people beyond the rulers and kings. We are digging ourselves a trench that we cannot get out of, and there is no free way to get out of that tax. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I actually think a lot of one of the things, with me farming, I've got several pieces of land, and every year when property taxes come around, it pisses me off because I pay my loan. I've got a loan on the land. I'm a young guy. I don't have that kind of cash to just pay for 100 acres of land. So I got it financed. So not only do I pay my notes to buy the land, but I will actually never, like I've told Marcy this, I'm like, I'll never actually own this land. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, because I'm never going to stop paying for it because I have to pay dumb ass property taxes forever. And I'm like, I didn't buy the land from the American government. So like it makes me mad that I have to pay property taxes to own a farm that I'm purchasing. Like that's like the most asinine thing in the world. And another funny thing, and he listens to this podcast, this guy, and so he'll get a kick out of me.
Barack Obama?
Yes, Obama is a very strong supporter of mine, just like I was such a strong supporter of his. But,
well, I'll tell you something about him in a minute. Go ahead.
No, so this dude listens. He's been an awesome supporter of the show. I'm not going to try to say his name just because of what I'm going to say in the story, but he has been getting harder and harder towards like full-blown libertarian. And he got pulled. He has not bought tags on his pickup truck since 2017. And he's capable of buying them. It's not that he can't. It's that he doesn't think that he should have to. And I'm in agreement. I think that's dumb.
Peaceful protest.
Yeah.
Peaceful protest, right?
Yeah. So he's not been buying tags. Well, like our ag tags around here, it's like $120 for tags. And his ticket, he got pulled over for driving with expired tags, and they wrote him a ticket. And I think his ticket was like $125. And so I was like, dang, did you get, because he was telling me about it. I said, did you go get tags? And he said, no, and I'm not going to. And I said, really? And he said, no. He said, man, if I buy tags every year, it costs me $120 a year. And he was like, my tags have been out since 2017, and I just now paid $125 for a ticket. He said, I'm coming out a hell of a lot better than buying tags. So he said, if they just keep giving me a ticket every couple years, whatever. So he was like, I'm not buying tags. So,
but I kind of got on a rant. It's probably because I've had a bourbon and I'm comfortable talking to you, but I realize that this is, people will hear this outside of just us, and I'm totally comfortable with everything I've said because I believe it.
Yeah.
But I think that we need to be real cautious when we look at these things. Like, we need to do a better job of educating people on what things really are. Because I saw a lot of people that were rejoicing about the stimulus money and that kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't know where the ball was dropped in individual education on what taxes are and what they do. The government does not have money that they just disseminate.
Yeah.
They collect money from the citizens. I'm making sure that I spell this out in case there's somebody listening to this show that doesn't know this. You know what I mean? It's like, how do we not understand that $1,400 or whatever it is that you get is not just actually like a kick in the balls, because it's like, it's your money anyway.
Yeah.
They're just giving you a piece of it. And I'm not saying this in any kind of like conspiracy or conspiratorial kind of way. I don't try to get into that realm very often, but what I can tell you is tangible reality. The fact is, you pay north of 30% taxes as what we call a quote unquote middle American, or what I call poverty plus, middle class, barely trying to make it. And then you're starting to pay 30%. You're spending 20 minutes of every hour on the clock for the government, for systems that I don't typically have access to. I don't typically request or call upon. And I have no problem helping my fellow American. But explain to me the pork belly spending, and explain to me the international donations, and explain to me the wasteful spending when I see that such and such project costs billions of dollars, and then only to come to find out, such as these Kevlar helmets that we actually found out through testing, actually increase the rate of CTE and increase the TBI, because Kevlar does not. It will stop a bullet, but it actually accelerates kinetic waves.
Oh, dang.
So we spent $2.1 billion on helmets that ended up getting sold at trade shows around the country for about 1/10 of the cost.
Yeah.
$2.1 billion. Look it up. faulty Kevlar helmets that the military purchased. It's 1.7 or 2.1. It's somewhere between those two ranges.
If me or you spent, if we were the CEO, or I guess not the CEO, but like, let's say like acting manager.
If we were the CMFIC.
Yeah, if you were, let's say they made you that at Sorinex today, and you you just progressively lost them hundreds of thousands of dollars on every project multiple times a year. Like, or let's say like, I mean, y'all do some big projects. I mean, let's say like one project, it's like, well, you know, we're going to lose $500,000 doing this, but it's for a good cause. Or this is with China here. We're doing this. Well, how long would Sorinex keep you in that position?
But I would be done before I finished the sentence.
That's what. Why is our?
I said China, it'd be like,
yeah, get out of here. Yeah. But why is it that our government, like, and I've thought about this a lot. Like, why? Well, one, I think about. Well, earlier, like with taxes, I think about, obviously, like you said, with the stimulus, I saw a ton of people, just like you were saying, that were like, this is good money, you know, get. And then I would try to debate with somebody, and then they're like, well, you're a damn farmer. You get all the government payments, you bastard. And so, so like, then my argument collapsed, and which I've spoken about, like, I'm not for farm payments. I don't want any payments. I don't want stimulus payments. I don't want farm payments. I want the government to not have anything to do with me. And so, but I understand, like I said, taxes, man, we're paying for it. There's no such thing as free money in the government. But I've tried to figure out, I think about George Washington and all them old freaking throat slashers, man. I'm like, what would these guys do today? Like, you talk about America. I mean, I am a very, very, very proud American. Like, I still do think that America is the greatest country. Like, I love America, but I do, just like you said, we're not like that free. The fact that I can get a ticket for not putting on a seatbelt makes me really mad. Like, I think that's the stupidest thing. I don't wear a seatbelt hardly ever. And
I don't either.
Like, dude, and I've told somebody, if my freedoms don't infringe upon someone else's, then it really shouldn't matter. And I was like,
you ride a motorcycle in this country, but you have to wear your seatbelt.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, excuse me. I know two people, and of course you don't know, you never know, but the assumption by the coroner was their life might have been preserved had they not been wearing their seatbelt. You know, who's to say, honestly, right?
Yeah.
But that was told to me twice, and it's not something that, you know, I'm probably better than 50-50 when I'm driving on the interstate. I do, but around town and stuff, I mean, my town is such, you can't go 25, 30 miles an hour tops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's probably just stubborn. It's one of those things. It's like, you have to do this. Nope, I don't. You know what I mean? It's
yep.
I hope if weed ever goes legal in Kentucky, thank God I'm in Mexico right now. If weed ever goes legal in Kentucky, I'm still going to buy it from a grower. You know what I mean? Like, I got to break 2 or 3 laws a day or I don't feel normal.
Well, that's what I've thought about with the seatbelt. I'm kind of the point. One, I just don't enjoy wearing it, but on the other hand, I don't want to wear it because, they're like, you got to wear it. And I'm like, it doesn't affect another person's life if I don't wear the seatbelt. Sure, like if something were to happen to me and I was killed because I did not have a seatbelt on, obviously my family's going to be very sad and all that. But which I was debating one of my friends, and we were kind of jokingly debating about the seatbelt thing. And I said, I guess they're looking at it as what if you were to or hit somebody and then your body launches through the windshield into their windshield and hits them? I said, are you then becoming like a human weapon? So that's why you can't wear your seatbelt? Because like that's the only reason. Like my flying body could be a weapon or a danger to somebody else.
How bad would that suck? Like you go through your windshield into theirs and you get a lawsuit because you impacted them or some shit because you didn't wear your seatbelt.
Yeah.
That's how I would go out. I would be like a fucking quadriplegic, $6 trillion in medical debt, and some jackass would sue me because I launched through his windshield and broke his collarbone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They call Daryl Isaacs the Tiger. Get them 1-800 attorney.
Dude, that's the only reason that it would make sense. Like a law for that. The law for that is stupid. So, all right, we got to move to the next topic.
Sorry, man. I ramble.
No, you're good. Why is Uncle Kracker so bad at music?
You know, I think Uncle Kracker is probably part of that generation where I don't think he's bad at music. I think that's a personal choice.
Yeah.
I think he has a musical talent to entertain because a lot of people like him, right? Like he's got a catchy beat. He's got a catch. Give it a beat for free my soul. That kind of shit. Like it's a rip off of another person's song, but he crafted it in such a way that it worked. So is he a great musician? Absolutely not. But does he make people happy? Does he give people a reason to sing out loud at a bar when they're drunk and probably forget their sucky work week and their shitty spouse? Absolutely. So he ain't all bad.
Well, there you go. That's a good take on him.
I told you I'm Mr. Happy Jacks over here. You give me a bourbon and a little rip on a pen, and I try to make everybody happy.
All right. Well, I got where is Blood Origins going? Robbie's asking. I told him, I said, coming hunting in Tennessee, and he said yes and yes. Now you've got a when's that hunt? They'll have like a hog hunt coming up. When is that?
Well, that was supposed to happen, but the guy that actually won the contest is British. He lives over in England, so we're not actually going to do it in 2021. That's something I'll probably talk to you about too. My buddy Mike has a farm. Absolutely love that place. Got some of my favorite people in the world that hunt out there in December. But they're overrun with pigs. I mean, anybody that doesn't understand hunting or doesn't appreciate hunting or doesn't think we should kill animals, I would really challenge you to just take a second and look at the devastation that pigs are causing farmers in the Midwest, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and such. And it's a real serious thing.
It is.
And there's no way to look at it except you have to go in there and single-handedly, one by one, harvest these animals. And there's programs set up where the meat is donated, feed the homeless, that kind of thing. But anyhow, I think we're still going to try to get a group of fellas out there, for a weekend or something like that, try to burn some of those midnight oils and have a few beers and shoot some pigs and maybe cook some too. But it's just something that needs to be done. And I think, I never leave there with a bad experience because every time the meat has been utilized and delicious, as well as the farmers and the people around there are appreciative of that. I mean, and it's a real opportunity to sharpen your skills as a hunter. I mean, the truth is there's so many pigs around, you're going to have the opportunity to get reps. And I mean, take that how you want it. You're doing a good for the land and a good for the other animals because they run the deer off, they kill some of the fawns, they eat the vegetation. I mean, pigs are an invasive species, so the population control is important, but I'll talk to you about that otherwise. Whenever we get it together, I think Josh Dobby from Sornex is coming, maybe one or two other guys from there. So we're going to try to put together a little weekend, like I said, drink a few beers and shoot some pigs, cook them, and hang out. And probably just shoot the bullshit when we shoot pigs. But
oh, it sounds like a good time.
Oh, it'll never be bad.
Good. Well, yeah. Well, definitely. That sounds like awesome, or sounds like an awesome time. So yeah, for sure. Keep me posted on it.
All right.
Okay. I don't even really particularly know how exactly this question, what he's asking here, but he said chicken dicks and turkey nipples with question marks. Well, I've got chickens. I've got 12 chickens, and I bought them as chicks. So I've raised them up, and I've actually wondered, how do I know which one is a rooster and a hen? I had never thought about that until I had chickens, because I always just assumed like they just immediately you would know the difference. And you can't hardly tell. Like, I think people that deal with chickens all the time, I've heard people that like get really good at handling a lot of chickens can tell like, okay, this one's a hen, this one's a rooster. But the ones I've got, I was talking to somebody and they were like, they really don't have much in terms of genitalia. So the surefire way to know is when they lay an egg. So that's how you know that it's a hen. So
do you think chicken was actually rooted in a derogatory statement about a male having a small penis?
It might be because
all right. I think that's where we're going with this. I think the original creation of it was the fact that a chicken has a small penis, and that was probably derogatory towards a male.
Okay. Yeah, probably. Because I'm just
going to chuck those. I'm going to chuck those two in the realm of Sasquatch, like rumored but not seen. You know?
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave that one alone.
Well, I just told him when he sent that, because I didn't share the suggestions that I got. What people sent me, I was like, I'm not going to reshare them. I'm keeping note of them for the show tonight. And he responded and was like, yeah, I knew you wouldn't share that one. And I said, I'm not sharing any of them, but I'm going to talk about all of them. And he was like,
right.
He said, you're not going to talk about that. And I said, yes, I am.
I got it. I'm going to tell you, if he hears the quote, that son of a bitch was stoic. He hung with us for over 3 hours.
Yes.
So he was listening with intent. He's like, "Where's it at?"
I have purposely waited towards the end so that if he says something, he's gonna like if he mentions it to me, then I'm gonna be like, man, I'm proud. I'm proud that you listened to the whole episode.
Dude, I have no aspirations of anybody listening past the first 30. You know what I mean? Like. And I don't mean that as an insult to our conversation, because I've enjoyed it tremendously. But like, man, if you get somebody to listen to 2 hours of your mouth moving, like that's a lot. Really, I mean that's like a huge compliment, honestly.
Yeah.
If somebody's willing to listen to you for an hour, I mean that's a fucking hour. They could have listened to Jordan Peterson or Joe Rogan or whoever. You know, it's like, fuck, man, that's kind of heavy.
It is. Well, my dad, he like hates the length of my episodes. He's like, because he'll tell my mom, he's like, they're just too long. They need to be like 15 minutes long. And I was like, when she told me that, I'm like, 15 minutes? You can't even have a conversation with somebody in 15 minutes.
Not a good one anyway.
No. I mean, I'm getting like warmed up at an hour. So
yeah, that's the way I am too.
But that's all the topics we're going to dive into tonight. It's been a good one, man. Like I said, 3 hours. We covered some good territory.
Dude, we are 3 hours and talk time is 3:22:17 as of right now, but it's probably about 3 hours and some change.
Yeah, we're right around 3 hours and 3 minutes.
That's crazy.
I know, it goes by quick.
But I mean, man, I don't talk to anybody for 3 hours, you know?
Yeah.
You and I consistently go long. Greg and I usually Greg and I usually go about 2.5 hours. Brandon's about 90 minutes. Casey's 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's just funny how I've kind of started to identify people's patterns.
Yeah, you're like, oh shit. If I ask you to do one, you're like, damn, I'm not cutting that time out. I always enjoy them.
It's honestly, it's literally 2:00 in the morning, and 1:50 to be exact. And I mean, I'm not really trying to jump off the thing, but it's like the only reason. I'm good to go another 3 hours. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just know that I got to get up and do shit tomorrow.
Yeah. No, well, that's me, man. Like I said, I think we've covered all the topics. I wanted to end on the turkey nipples and all that. So I felt that was a good closing.
Yeah, man. Oh, have you ever had any desire to bear hunt?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind bear hunting. Probably with a rifle over a bow, though.
Shit.
Well,
I think you do either one. I think.
Where at?
I ain't gonna tell you all the deets. Keep it low profile.
All right.
I'll tell you about it. I'll text you.
Okay.
We'll talk about it tomorrow.
All right. Yeah, text me, because no, I would definitely. And I mean, I guess for the going the right place, I'd probably go with my bow. If I could make the shot, I'm not real great.
It would be a situation where you would have an opportunity with these weapons.
Yeah. Okay.
And it would be, I mean, it wouldn't be like it wouldn't be anything shady. It's a true mountain hunt. So
they like bring it out on a chain.
I'm saying it wouldn't be anything like that at all. It'd be,
no, I'm kidding.
It'd be the real deal.
Yeah.
It'd be like fucking revving it.
All right. Well, then I'm just going with a knife. If I don't come back with scars down my back from this bear, then what kind of story could I even tell?
Well, you know what, man? You start reading some of those old 1800 stories and the journals of those frontiersmen. There's a lot of that shit. Guys killing, and I'm not saying it's a 10-foot grizzly, but guys having to kill a bear with a knife or their bare hands. And I mean, it's hard, I think, for the average person to even. First of all, I don't think the average person in the world right now is thinking that kind of shit.
No.
And number two, I don't think that they could even fathom what it would be like. And I only say that in respect of this. I remember when I was in Australia, actually I was in Tasmania with Kirill Sarachev. He's the strongest. I mean, he's one of the strongest human beings to ever live. We were just kind of wrestling around. We were both 300 plus pounds, and we were just wrestling around. And in the few minutes that we kind of grappled with each other and got on the ground, and we're trying to see who could dominate the other one and try to get them on the pin or whatever. Man, that sounded really sexual. I'm sorry. It sounded really bad. That's why I kept stuttering, because I was like, I don't know how to make this sound any less
gay
sexual than it is. Yeah, any less gay than it does, but it sounds pretty homosexual right now. So anyway, it was unbelievable how strong this human was,
Yeah.
Albeit he is like a gorilla. It was like, it is unbelievable how strong this human is. So I couldn't imagine just trying to go up to an equal size, like a 6 foot, 300 pound bear. I mean, that thing would be terrifying.
Oh yeah. Cause I mean, it'd be 2 or 3 times the strength of a human.
At least. And I mean, and that's not even factoring in a 10-foot bear that's 1,100 pounds. I mean, did you see that one that Nature's Metal posted that was 1,500 pounds?
I don't think so. Said? Man, dude, I love that page.
I think the caption was 1,500 pounds of bad attitude.
Yeah.
Because it was just kind of like flared up, but it was back, or the hair on the back, it was like raised up because it was pissed off. One of the coolest pictures ever. I'm
going to have to look that up.
Yep.
Well, that's a good note to close on. We're gonna call it a night. As always, tell everybody where they can follow you.
Brandon Lilly 3 is probably my second page anymore. I post most of my stuff, or most of my meaningful stuff anyway, through Peace, Love, and Meat. It's kind of I guess just an extended version of what you heard here. Somebody trying to figure out life and get a little better as they go.
Good deal. Yeah, y'all go follow him and check out. I mean, Brandon does his podcast, his Peace, Love, and Meat. You can find it on there. And guys, appreciate y'all tuning in. If you're still with us, you're a trooper. So, Brandon, thanks for coming on the show, brother.
Always, man. I appreciate it.
For sure. Everybody, thank y'all. Hope y'all have a blessed day.